Chapter 556. Your Majesty, this is actually an opportunity. Duke Stagg had the same smile, looking like he had a card up his sleeve as he spoke. Opportunity? King Eric looked at Duke Stagg with a confused gaze. The situation in the kingdom was already this bad, and he actually said that this was an opportunity? What opportunity? Your Majesty, did you forget? Since Her Highness Seveni gave up on fighting for the throne with you, although it is much simpler for you, the people in the kingdom who oppose you have hidden themselves because of this. When they didn't do anything before, we couldn't distinguish them, and it was even harder to do anything to them. Now that they have jumped out because of this, isn't this a good chance to deal with them? Seeing the dangerous smile on Duke Stagg's face, King Eric felt a chill in his heart. This Duke Stagg, who looked normal on the surface and even had a harmless smile, was actually very ruthless in his heart. Perhaps this situation was a good chance for him to get rid of his enemies, so he wouldn't show any mercy. But for him as the king and the Lampari kingdom, was this really a good chance? If it was said that before he took the throne, Eric only had a simple understanding of the kingdom's situation, now that he had been the king for close to a year, he had a rather deep understanding of the kingdom's situation. Before this, he was very dissatisfied that the new flyer wasn't willing to support him taking the throne. He thought that once he took the throne, he would definitely take care of the new flyer. He had indeed done this. Although the new flyer had been targeted by the nobles, they had all received his support. He didn't feel that there was a problem at first, but as time passed, losing the new flyer had an effect on Banta City and even the Lampari kingdom. Even if there wasn't this bloody conflict, Eric had already learned about the influence of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce through the various reports from the various regions. This influence, most of the time, was positive and positive. Eric could even conclude that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce played an important role in Banta City's development over the past few years. The Lampuri Kingdom's financial situation had clearly improved over the past few years, which was greatly related to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. If he stood in the position of the Lampari Kingdom's king, looking at the entire Lampari Kingdom, Eric should be like his father, Lampuri XIII, firmly supporting the new flyer. But since things had reached this point, it was impossible for him to stop. Moreover, the 10 companies of the nobles that supported him had already pushed the new flyer out of the Lampari kingdom, so it was impossible for him to keep the new flyer. The large nobles that supported him, led by the Stagg family, had already stolen all the magic machine market from the new flyer through these 10 companies, obtaining large benefits from this. Even if Eric was the most honorable king of the Lampuri kingdom, he definitely wouldn't dare go against this group of stubborn conservative nobles who controlled almost the entire Lampuri kingdom. Not to mention anything else, just the Stagg family that Duke Stagg represented was something that Eric didn't have any confidence in dealing with. Seeing that Eric was silent, Duke Stagg didn't guess his true thoughts and thought that he was just hesitating. He revealed a smile and continued, "Your Majesty, I know that you are worried that this will cause chaos in the kingdom, but I have already prepared a plan. But don't worry, I already have a series of perfect plans for these things. I can slowly and effectively get rid of those who oppose you. I guarantee that there won't be any mistakes." Eric gave a long sigh in his heart, knowing that he didn't have any leeway to oppose this. When Duke Stagg came to tell him about this matter, perhaps he was already implementing this plan and he was just here to inform him. Anyway, he had all the power in the kingdom in his hands, and even the royal guards in the royal palace only listened to his orders, so what did Eric's opinion matter? After thinking for a bit, Eric gave a slight nod. "All right, we'll do as the Duke says." Duke Stagg looked like he already expected this. He revealed a faint smile and gave Eric a bow. "Then, Your Majesty, please rest well. I'll be leaving first." Seeing Duke Stagg leave, Eric's face sunk. He forcefully clenched his right hand, and the pen that was as thick as his pinky broke in half with a "Kacha" sound. ##### The chaos in Banta City, didn't affect the Principality of Constantine that was several hundred kilometers away at all. It was different from the bloody conflict that shocked the entire Lampuri kingdom during Banticity's spring harvest, which slowed down the entire spring harvest. The Frestek farm had over 100,000 hectares of farmland, and they had already finished harvesting half a month ago. Compared to last year, because the new flyer had upgraded their agricultural magic machines and put in new medium-sized agricultural magic machines, their harvesting efficiency was much higher than last year. Even if there were 20,000 more hectares of farmland than last year, the total harvest time was 3 days less than last year. The new generation of Shinfei agricultural magic machines naturally attracted praise. Not only did Lord Wine order several dozen sets from the new flyer, even the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Mirando Duchy, and the Drake Duchy that was over 1,000 kilometers away had sent representatives to the new flyer, adding up to close to 1,000 sets. Just with these orders, the total value was over 3 million gold coins. This represented the new flyer's first large sale of household magic machines this year. As for the military magic machines, since they agreed to exchange them for territory from Lord Wine, the new flyer had greatly reduced their sales volume. They only sold to some companies that were close to them, so the total value was less than 1 million gold coins, which was a bit of a decrease. However, if the value of the military magic machines supplied to Lord Wine was included, the total price of the military magic machines would exceed 2 million gold coins. Adding in the various household magic machines and a small number of production magic machines that were sold in the first half of the year, the new flyer had sold a shocking 7 million gold coins in less than 5 months of the year. With the high profit margin of the new flyer, from this 7 million gold coins in sales, the new flyer had a net profit of over 3 million gold coins. This surprised Sui a bit. He thought that because the new flyer had been rebuilding their production base and opening up the market, the company's sales and profits would have greatly decreased. But based on the current situation, although it had decreased quite a bit compared to last year, going from a net profit of over 4,300,000 gold coins in the first 5 months of last year to just over 3 million gold coins, it wasn't that much of a decrease. Not only was it acceptable, it even surprised Sui and the high-level members of the company. Being able to earn such a high profit in this situation, it was enough to prove that the world's pursuit of magic machines hadn't decreased at all. Although they were forced out of the Lampari Kingdom market, with the development of the new flyer, they had opened up the markets of many other countries and regions outside the Lampari Kingdom, so their prospects were even wider. In the Kingdom of Ruhr, the Mirando Duchy, the Drake Duchy, and even the Sac Kingdom, the Shinfei brand magic machines represented the trend and the most advanced products. Countless families were proud to have a Shinfei brand magic machine. With the current trend, it wouldn't be long before the new flyer would be like the Lampari Kingdom, taking most of the magic machine market in these countries. Why didn't it take all the markets? Of course it was because Sui wanted to leave some space for the other companies that produced magic machines. But for Sui, during this time, the most important thing for him wasn't how much sales and profits the new flyer earned or how much money he earned, but rather how much money he spent. Accurately speaking, it was how much money he spent on Duke Stantine. Even if Lord Wine said it very easily, transferring his territory to Sui, who was actually a foreigner, it wasn't easy to get approval from Duke Stantine. Since signing the contract with Lord Wine, in just a short month, Sui and Duke Stantine had met 7 times, spending over 1 million gold coins before finally settling this matter. Today was the day Duke Stantine was conferring a medal on Sui. According to the rules of the Principality of Constantine, or rather the rules of the signs, if one wasn't a noble, they definitely couldn't have private territory. So to transfer a piece of land from Lord Wine to Sui, it required a very complicated and troublesome procedure that took several circles. First, Lord Wine declared that he didn't have the ability to manage all the territories under his name, so he took the initiative to hand over Suyi's territory to the duchy. Then Duke Stantine gave a special commendation to the new flyer, commending the new flyer's outstanding contribution to the development of the Principality of Constantine. As the chairman, Su Yi's contribution was great, so he gave Su Yi the honorary citizenship of the Principality of Constantine, as well as the honorary title of Lord of the Principality of Constantine. After this, Duke Stantine gave the land Lord Wine had given to Su Yi as an honorary lord, turning it into his private territory. After going through this process, this piece of land was finally recognized as Su Yi's private territory. After receiving the title badge from Duke Stantine and the private territory bestowed certificate, it meant that from this moment onwards, the territory was considered Su Yi's private territory. The Principality of Constantine and the Lampari Kingdom were different. As long as Su Yi had enough power to protect and manage this private territory, then in this territory, he would be the king. Chapter 557. Although when he was in the Lampari Kingdom, Su Yi had the Falling Rain Valley as his private territory, he wasn't used to being a lord. He only treated the Falling Rain Valley as a production base for the new flyer, so he naturally didn't have the awareness of being a lord. Moreover, because of the situation, he gave up his identity as a noble and handed over his private territory, so he didn't have any feelings for the private territory of a noble. But it was different this time. The Principality of Constantine was completely different from the Lampari Kingdom. Duke Stantine represented the Principality of Constantine and didn't have any restrictions on the nobles in the Principality of Constantine. So Su Yi had a private territory here, which was equivalent to his personal territory. According to Lord Wine's words, in this territory, no matter what Su Yi did, no one would care. Even if he killed people and set fires, no one would say anything about it because no one had the qualifications. Su Yi naturally wouldn't kill people and set fires in his own territory, but he needed this feeling of freedom because only like this could he plan his territory according to his own thoughts. It wouldn't be like his plan for the Falling Rain Valley, which was limited and imperfect. Moreover, this private territory was over 240,000 hectares, which was over 2,000 square kilometers. It was several dozen times larger than the 10 square kilometers of the Falling Rain Valley, so it was much more spacious to plan. Of course, he was also very clear that this degree of freedom was built on the strength that he possessed. If he didn't have enough strength to protect this territory, then when needed, he believed that Lord Wine wouldn't hesitate to swallow this territory back into his stomach. So after officially becoming the lord of this territory, Su Yi immediately reorganized the guards of the new flyer, turning the 500 most elite guards into his personal guards. Just like Agnes said, even the proud elven warriors of the company didn't have any resistance to becoming his personal guards. Instead, many elven warriors revealed clear joy when they heard that they would become Su Yi's personal guards. Su Yi asked the elven guard captain Ferio about this, and Ferio replied that this was Elder Ilusia's idea. Moreover, he was a human recognized by all the elves of the Nightsong tribe, so becoming his personal guards didn't mean any shame to the elven warriors. This was because they all recognized Su Yi and felt that Su Yi was the person who changed the fate of the Nightsong tribe. Even if they offered their lives for Su Yi, there wouldn't be any problems. On the contrary, being the guards of the new flyer was a bit hard for them to accept. This was because the new flyer didn't completely belong to Su Yi alone, so it made them feel like they were working for a human other than Su Yi. As for the dwarven warriors, naturally they didn't have any doubts. Even when Su Yi revealed that he wanted to form a personal guard, because of the limited number of people, the 13 dwarven tribes that moved to the Principality of Constantine with the new flyer held a large competition. They claimed that they wanted to select the most elite dwarven warriors to join Su Yi's personal guards. You're asking about human guards? Was there a need to ask? The treatment of the new flyer's guards was already this good, so the treatment of Su Yi's personal guards would be even better. Once they heard that Su-yi was recruiting private guards, not to mention the Frestek Chamber of Commerce's human guards breaking their heads to get in, even the elite human warriors from other places heard this news through various channels and all rushed over. However, Su-yi didn't want people he didn't know to mix into his personal guards. Therefore, he selected a portion of these people to join the new Flyers Guards. What surprised Su-yi was that when Elder Lysania heard that Su-yi wanted to form a personal guard, she also sent over 200 elven warriors from the Moon Shadow tribe, saying that they wanted to join Su-yi's personal guard. After careful consideration, Su-yi tactfully rejected Elder Lysania's good intentions. In the end, Elder Lysania didn't let the 200 elven warriors from the Moon Shadow tribe return. Instead, she stuffed them into the new Flyers Guard. In the end, although Su-yi took away 500 of the most elite warriors from the new Flyers Guards, the new Flyers Guards increased from 1,200 to 1,500. Of course, because of the run-in and because the new soldiers weren't familiar with the high-end military magic machines of the Frestek Chamber of Commerce, in terms of battle strength, they couldn't compare to the previous 1,200 guards. However, Su-yi wasn't worried about this. The beastmen of the Black Rice Wasteland were like weed. They had extremely tenacious vitality. No matter how many times they were cleaned up, there would still be some ignorant beastmen appearing. These beastmen couldn't pose any threat to the large-scale and heavily guarded base of the Black Rice Wasteland, but it was good for the new guards of the company to practice with. Since he received the award and the territory, there were a series of things that kept Su-yi busy. When he finally finished arranging the matters of the personal guard and the company's guards, as well as planning the development of the new flyer, it had already been several months. After entering July, the arrival of summer made the weather of the Principality of Constantine even hotter. Su-yi finally obtained some free time during this time. When he finally had some free time, he turned his attention to Banta City and the Lampari Kingdom, but he found that the situation in the Lampari Kingdom had greatly changed once again. In these few months, there were large and small nobles in the Lampari Kingdom that had been stripped of their noble status by the royal parliament, taking away all their property and territory. The royal parliament gave all kinds of strange reasons. There was even a viscount who had killed a cow in his territory, breaking the laws of the kingdom, so he was stripped of his noble status by the royal parliament. It had to be known, even in the Lampari Kingdom where it wasn't easy to farm and cattle were important, it was a trivial matter for a noble to kill a cow in their territory. Even if this went against the laws of the kingdom, how could the royal parliament let the nobles who had special rights be punished by the law? Not to mention that the Lampari Kingdom had already popularized the agricultural magic machines, so cows were only used in a few places, so they no longer had an important position like before. Even the various dishes made from beef had already been placed on the menus of the various restaurants in the Lampari Kingdom. In this situation, a noble would actually be stripped of his noble status for killing a cow and be imprisoned for breaking the laws of the kingdom, being severely punished by the laws of the kingdom? This was simply a joke. However, this was the reality of what was happening in the Lampari Kingdom. Other than many small nobles who didn't have much power, there were even 2 large nobles who were punished. Not only did these 2 large nobles have large territories, they were also the city lords of their own cities, so they had power that couldn't be underestimated. However, when the Lampari Kingdom's royal parliament and the royal parliament worked together, these 2 large nobles were caught without being able to resist at all. There was no news of them since then. After learning this news, Su-yi was filled with joy. It was a good thing that he had left the Lampari Kingdom, otherwise this time, he would have been one of the nobles caught. Now that he was the lord of the Principality of Constantine, no one dared to catch him without distinguishing right from wrong. At the same time, he felt it was a bit strange. Most of the nobles that were caught had supported Seveni taking the throne. When Eric became the king, Su-yi thought that he would find an excuse to take care of the nobles that didn't support him. The so-called ruler had his own ministers, this wasn't a strange thing. However, Eric didn't do this, and the Lampari kingdom had been peaceful for close to a year. Sui thought that this page would be over, but he never thought that Eric would suddenly make a move. Because of the bloody conflict in Banta City, the Lampari kingdom was very tense. There were many people who supported Her Highness Seveni and opposed Eric taking the throne, who used this chance to voice their opposition to King Eric, but Eric chose to make a move at this time. Didn't he feel that this was too conspicuous? Doing this, he would take this chance to take care of the nobles that opposed him, but wasn't King Eric worried that this would anger the nobles of the Lampari kingdom and cause even more chaos? Sui didn't understand the other nobles, but at least he knew that Baron Hannes was very dissatisfied with this situation. In the Anvil Times and the Lampuri Weekly, they had very direct attacks on what was happening in the Lampari kingdom. Although he didn't say that King Eric was in the wrong, there was no doubt that the meaning was revealed between the lines. Although the editor-in-chief of the Anvil Times and the Lampuri Weekly had always been Baron Hannes, they represented the position of the nobles behind him. Now that these two newspapers had published such a clear-cut and sharply worded article, it was enough to prove that the powerful nobles behind Baron Hannes were extremely dissatisfied. However, what really caused a stir in the Lampari kingdom, or accurately speaking, what shocked all the nobles in the Lampari kingdom, was not the articles in these two newspapers, but rather a piece of news. Duke Stagg's son, who had the right to inherit the Stagg family, Leslie Stagg, had been expelled by Duke Stagg. Chapter 558. Sui looked at Viscount Leslie sitting in front of him with a relaxed smile, feeling a bit angry and a bit amused. "I say, Leslie, didn't you say that you would go all out to fight for the family's inheritance and then control the Stagg family, but what happened in the end? Why have you been kicked out of the family?" No, you have to understand something. I wasn't kicked out of the family, but rather I took the initiative to leave. Viscount Leslie stretched out a finger and shook it. The two are very different, don't make a mistake. Sui couldn't help smiling as he said, "Is there a difference? In short, you've been forced to leave the Stagg family and you can't even stay in the Lampari kingdom, so you can only come to me. I say, does Duke Stagg have to be this cruel to you? You are still his blood-related son no matter what. For a large noble like my father, a blood-related son isn't as important as you think." Viscount Leslie. All right, when he was kicked out of the Stagg family, he was also stripped of his noble status by the royal parliament, so he couldn't be called a viscount anymore. Leslie didn't look disappointed at all, rather he looked very relaxed. It was like being kicked out of the family by his father was something worth being happy about. Of course it's worth being happy about, Leslie said with a faint smile, staying in that house, breathing in that suffocating air every day and watching a group of people led by father scheming against other people. I've been very tired of it for a long time. I wanted to work hard to change this family, but father had already seen through my thoughts and didn't give me a chance at all. You're not disappointed? Sui was a bit confused. Now that you've been kicked out, wouldn't you have a chance to change the Stagg family in the future? If there's no chance, there's no chance. Leslie gave a shrug. Father and the people of the family have already chosen the path they want to take. Since I don't have the ability to change them, I can only leave. Actually, this is also good because in the end, I am still a member of the Stagg family. As long as I'm alive, this family will still exist. As for what will become of father and the others, that has nothing to do with me. Sui knit his brows as he looked at Leslie. He suddenly thought of the history books he had read on Earth before. In history, there were many large families that in order to avoid their entire family being destroyed because of a single choice, they would have their family's juniors choose different lords to support. In this way, even if one side was defeated, there would always be one side that would survive and have the opportunity to continue developing the family. At the very least, they would be able to continue the bloodline of the family. Duke Stagg had chased Leslie out of the Stagg family. Although this was because Leslie's political views didn't match his and the Stagg family's political views, perhaps he was also thinking about this. However, Sui couldn't bring himself to ask this question. After pondering for a moment, he asked, "All right then. Now that you can't survive in the Lampari Kingdom, are you looking for something to do here?" I've always been interested in the magic machines you've been researching. Other than that, I heard that your company had developed something good, so I came to take a look. Leslie replied. What did you like? Sui asked in a curious voice. If I didn't make a mistake, last time you told Hannes that thing was going to go to sea today. Come, take me to see it. Leslie stood up and walked out the door. Sui was stunned. So you liked it? Looking at Leslie's back in confusion, Sui shook his head and stood up to follow him. When he walked out the door, there was a small figure that swayed as she walked over. She threw herself at Sui and grabbed his leg. Dad! Dad! Hug! Sui leaned over and opened his arms to hug Freya, forcefully kissing her little face. Freya was already a year and 3 months old, and had just learned how to walk. She liked running around the manor during this time. Sui liked playing with her on the grass when he was free, so even if Sui didn't spend that much time with her, she was very close to Sui. Being poked by Sui's beard, Freya gave a childish laugh. Seeing Sui teasing Freya, Leslie took out a red jade pendant from his chest and handed it over. Come, Freya, take this. Uncle Leslie left in a hurry this time and didn't prepare a better gift for you. You won't blame me, right? With Sui's current relationship with Leslie, he didn't need to be polite. Sui didn't say anything and allowed Leslie to put this expensive jade pendant into Freya's little hands. He turned to ask him, Speaking of this, Leslie, I suddenly feel that the reason Duke Stagg drove you out is because you still aren't willing to get married, right? Leslie's expression changed as he looked at Sui and said with a cold snort, What? You're married now and have a daughter, so you're rushing me like those annoying fellows? Sui gave a shrug. I'm too lazy to rush you, this is your private matter. I just feel that Duke Stagg hopes that you can strengthen the Stagg family bloodline. If you bring a girl back now, he might be happy and let you return to the family. I'm not a breeding stallion. Leslie snorted. Leslie gave a snort. Moreover, I said it just now, I chose to leave and wasn't driven out by him, so there is a difference. Sui treated it as him being stubborn, so he shook his head and didn't say anything else. Seeing that Freya wasn't willing to get off him, he told Liz, who had been in charge of following Freya, to drive the magic sedan over. After getting in the magic sedan with Leslie, they headed to the wharf by the sea under the cliff of the manor. This wharf had been expanded compared to when New Flyer came to the Principality of Constantine to open the Shinfei farm. It had gone from 3 wharves to 7 wharves. Other than the wharves, there was a dock that was over 100,000 square meters not far away. By the shore of the dock, there were over 100 large and small boats parked there. Other than a few wooden boats, the rest were New Flyer's magic boat. Of course, there were big and small magic boats. The small ones could only seat 5 people at most, which was around the same as the smallest wooden boat. The bigger ones were over 10 meters long and 4 to 5 meters wide. It wasn't a problem for them to seat several dozen people or to equip some goods. Sui carried Freya out of the magic sedan and pointed at the magic boats in front of them. He asked Leslie, who came out on the other side, Did you come for them? Of course not. Leslie shook his head. He looked at Sui before suddenly saying with a smile, All right, Sui, Hannes has already told me everything, so you don't need to hide it like it's a secret. Quickly tell me, when will your new magic boat launch ceremony begin? I'm waiting to see it. That fellow Hannes really can't be relied on. Sui rolled his eyes. He gave Freya to Liz to hold and headed to the dock in the distance. There was a group of people wearing New Flyer clothes working in the dock, as if they were arranging something. Seeing Sue come over, Kennard, who was in charge of directing, came forward. "Sir Chairman, it's all prepared, we're waiting for you to announce it." After saying this, Kennard gave a nod to Leslie, who was standing behind him. The two of them came from large noble families in Anvil City, so naturally they knew each other. Through their relationship with Sue, the two of them were even more familiar with each other. Sue looked at the timer on the side and found that it was close to the scheduled time, so he gave a nod. "All right, since everything is prepared, then let's begin," Kennard replied before leaving to give the final orders. Not long after, a waterway leading to the endless sea was opened in the dock. As the gate slowly opened, a sharp bow slowly sailed out from the covered dock. Not long after, the entire figure was revealed, bathing in the sunlight. Looking up, Leslie couldn't help taking in a cold breath. Although he knew from Hannes that the new flyer's magic boat was quite big, he never would have thought that it would be this big. Looking at it from the water, the part of the magic boat that was above the water was over 5 meters tall. After the entire magic boat was revealed, one could see that it was over 50 meters long. Although because of the angle, Leslie couldn't see how wide the magic boat was, based on its appearance, it should be a shocking 20 meters wide. Since he set his goal, Leslie had learned a lot about ships. He knew that in the history of signs, there had never been such a large ship before. What was even more shocking and unbelievable was that this magic boat was completely made of steel. This kind of giant magic boat was completely made of steel, so it could be imagined how heavy it was. With such a terrifying weight, it could actually float on the water. This simply subverted Leslie's common sense. Seeing the thick layer of steel around the magic boat, Leslie couldn't help being shocked in his heart. This magic boat, it was simply an iron fortress that could move freely on the sea. If one drove this magic boat on the sea, they would definitely be invincible. Chapter 559. Many people were confused by Leslie's plans for his future. Sue was even more surprised. Because Leslie actually wanted to sail the endless seas, his dream was to become the overlord of the seas. Hearing Leslie's idea, Sue almost scolded him for thinking too much. Overlord of the seas? He couldn't even touch the seas. How could he be an overlord? Because of the limitations of this world's technology, they couldn't make large ships that were strong enough to sail the seas at all. In the history of signs, only the Candla Empire had tried this once. They had built 20 giant wooden ships and formed a fleet to sail the seas, claiming that they wanted to explore the depths of the endless seas, to explore another continent far away. However, this fleet had only been out for 3 days before they met a storm. In the end, the 20 wooden ships were all destroyed by the storm and most of the explorers died, with less than 10 people lucky enough to survive. Since then, the people of signs had given up on the idea of sailing the seas, even turning the endless seas into a forbidden area. Other than the people who lived by the sea who could find opportunities to fish, at other times, no one dared to take half a step into the endless seas. Now Leslie was saying that he wanted to become the overlord of the seas. If he only ruled the coastal areas, it wasn't related to strength on the sea, rather it was strength on the coast. Sue, this is the old idea of signs, it's already outdated. Leslie looked at Sue with a confused look. It really is strange, this magic boat was clearly developed by you, but now you're telling me that sailing the seas is an extravagant hope? You have no confidence in the things you designed? It is because I personally designed this thing that I know its limitations better than anyone, Sue said with a serious look. Although I can confidently say that this magic boat's ability to resist storms far surpasses the wooden ships and it is much safer on the seas, it has only increased the safety from 0 to 1. It isn't an exaggerated increase, and it can't guarantee that you can survive on the seas. According to what you said, isn't this thing not that much better than those wooden ships? Then why did you spend so much effort to create him? Leslie knit his brows, looking a bit disappointed. Leslie revealed a look of disappointment. I thought that with this thing, I could fulfill my dream of sailing the endless seas since I was young. I can guarantee that you will fulfill this dream in the future, but not now. Sui shook his head and said with a serious look, I'll give you a more practical suggestion. First, set your goals and don't think that you can sail that far right away. Sailing the seas is something that requires experience. You should take it step by step and explore it bit by bit. Leslie looked back at Sui. You think that I'm an idiot? Of course I won't be like those idiots from the Kanla Empire, immediately charging into the endless seas. My original plan was to use this magic boat that you developed to explore the endless seas bit by bit. Could it be that you think that I would charge in like a fool? Sui couldn't help rolling his eyes. In the end, he was just worried for nothing. All right, then what are you planning to do? Sui asked. Our company has set the price for this medium-sized magic boat at 800,000 gold coins. I don't think that you can take out that much money right now. 800,000 gold coins? Leslie was shocked. Leslie was surprised. It's that expensive? Of course. Sui proudly said. This medium-sized magic boat has a capacity of 5,000 tons and it can carry over 3,000 tons of cargo. This means that if it's filled with cargo, a single trip is equivalent to transporting it over 100 times on land. You think it's expensive? I feel that it's very cheap. It can carry 3,000 tons of cargo at a time. Leslie looked at the medium-sized magic boat that had finished its ceremony and was slowly moving along the blue waves of the endless seas before giving a nod. If it's like this, it is indeed worth that much money. But Sui, it seems like my initial estimates were wrong. Actually, what I need the most right now isn't this kind of transport magic boat, but rather something like the small magic speedboats that can carry soldiers for battle. Battle magic boat? Sui slightly knit his brows as he looked at Leslie in surprise. What? Do you want to become a pirate? Leslie laughed and didn't reply. Looking at the strange smile on his face, Sui didn't ask anything else. After thinking about it, he said with a nod, This is actually very simple. You just need to make some necessary modifications and add some weapons and defenses to it. Alright, I need a magic boat that is a bit smaller than these medium-sized magic boats and has magic machines on it. For example, a military magic boat like the small magic trebuchet. It would be best if it could be a bit faster than this. How about it, Sui? Can you do this? Sui spread his hands. I can do this, but with our company's current production capacity, we can't even make one in half a year. If you're in a rush, we definitely can't do it. Moreover, according to your request, although the cost is much lower than the medium-sized magic boats, it wouldn't be less than 400,000 gold coins per ship. Are you certain you want it? I'm certain. Leslie gave a certain nod before taking out a gold note and putting it in Sui's hand. This is the first order. I hope you can deliver it as soon as possible. Sui looked at it and found that this gold note from the Chimera Chamber of Commerce was for 50,000 gold coins. It was just right to use it as a deposit for a small magic boat that cost around 500,000 gold coins. But Sui still didn't understand what Leslie was planning on doing. Large ships weren't just good to buy, the maintenance costs couldn't be underestimated. If one couldn't obtain enough benefits from it, it wasn't a good thing to have these things. Sui was developing the magic boats because on one hand, it was to promote the development of the new flyers' magic machines, perfecting the current magic machine industry. On the other hand, he was planning on forming a fleet to meet the urgent transport needs of the new flyer. If Leslie wanted to buy several military ships, if he didn't become a pirate, this thing would be a bottomless pit that he could only throw money into. Even if Leslie hadn't been chased out by Duke Stagg, with the large financial backing of the Stagg family, it would have been hard for him to do this kind of business. Now that his territory had been taken back by the Lampari Kingdom's parliament, it was even more impossible for him to have this kind of financial backing. But Leslie clearly wasn't planning on explaining his plans to Sue, so Sue naturally wouldn't ask about it. Compared to Leslie, who didn't care about this medium-sized magic boat, Sue cared more about it. Being able to smoothly make this medium-sized magic boat meant that the Shinfei merchants had made many breakthroughs in technology. First was the engine technology. Although the magic car and magic boat engines were both wind magic engines and had the same principles, there was a large difference between them. Whether it was in the Academy of Magic or the Magic Machine Development Center, the magic car and magic boat engines were developed separately. Now that this medium-sized magic boat had been made and was smoothly sailing on the sea, it meant that the magic boat engine had made a major breakthrough. It also meant that New Flyer's research on the wind magic engine had reached a new height, which would promote the development of the magic car engine. For example, during this time, with the breakthroughs in the magic boat engine research, New Flyer's research on the magic car engine had also made great progress. In their experiments, they had already made a large transport magic car that could transport over 20 tons. But because of the inherent disadvantage of the wind magic engine, they couldn't make any major breakthroughs in terms of speed. They could only wait for the development of the fire magic engine to make some progress. Other than the engine, the success of this medium-sized magic boat also meant that New Flyer had made another breakthrough in large-scale magic machines. It included the most basic steel welding, the casting of large-scale components, the design of large-scale magic machines, and other aspects. They had all been greatly improved through the process of making this medium-sized magic boat. This medium-sized magic boat had taken close to 2 years since Sue proposed the concept, and now it had been finished. Even on Earth, this was considered very fast. And on these signs that had no foundation at all, this was a miraculous speed. Now that this medium-sized magic boat had been launched, it would be much faster to build the second medium-sized magic boat. When New Flyer built their first ocean transport fleet, they would be able to transport New Flyer's goods to various places on the signs through the endless seas. Take the Kingdom of Ruhr as an example. If New Flyer wanted to transport the various magic machines they produced to the Kingdom of Ruhr, because of the geography of the Principality of Constantine, they could only pass through the Black Rice Wasteland and enter the Lampari Kingdom. After passing through Banta City, they would turn south and enter the Kingdom of Ruhr. Like this, the total distance would be close to 1,000 kilometers. Not mentioning the high cost of transport, because they would have to pay a customs duty to pass through the Lampari Kingdom, the total cost of transport was very high. Once the ocean transport fleet was built, these goods could be directly loaded onto the ship. They would make a small circle to the south of the Principality of Constantine and finally land on the southern coast of the Kingdom of Ruhr. They didn't need to pay any extra fees, and adding in the powerful cargo capacity of the magic boat, a single trip was equal to countless trips, which would without a doubt greatly reduce the cost. Moreover, if they transported through the endless seas, they could easily reach the countries further along the coast of the signs. This was very helpful for Sue in spreading the magic machines produced by New Flyer to the signs. But New Flyer's current production capacity wasn't enough. Even if the experiment was successful, it would take several months to build the next medium-sized magic boat. When they could truly build an ocean transport fleet, it would be several years later at the earliest. Thinking of this, Sue couldn't help looking at Leslie with an annoyed look. His schedule was already tight enough, and now this guy had to come and meddle in it. This was simply a waste of time. Chapter 560. Leslie leaving the Stag family. For Sue, it wasn't a serious matter. When he met Leslie a few years ago, he knew that Leslie's ideas didn't fit in with the Stag family's ideas. Leslie had always been against the family's methods. Leslie said that he would go all out to take the family's inheritance because he hoped that after he became the family head, he could gradually change the Stag family's ideas and change the family according to his ideas. Although he had failed now, from a personal point of view, it was a kind of relief. In the end, he was Duke Stag's blood-related son. Even if Duke Stag didn't care about his blood-related son, he couldn't do anything to him just because he inherited the family's bloodline. Leslie said that he wanted to order at least 10 medium-sized magic boats from New Flyer, which required a large amount of money. If it wasn't for Duke Stag's tacit approval, Leslie definitely wouldn't have been able to take away such a large amount of money when he left the family. Perhaps it was like Sue-E had guessed. Duke Stag expelling Leslie from the family could be considered leaving a path of retreat for the Stag family. So Sue-E didn't care that much about Leslie being expelled from the family. Whether Leslie went to be a pirate or a merchant as a friend, Sue-E would support him. Other than this didn't affect Sue-E and New Flyer that much. However, this matter had a deep impact on the Stag family and even the entire Lampari kingdom. The nobles of the Lampuri kingdom learned through rumors that Duke Stag had expelled his own son because Leslie had opposed his political ideas, objecting to how he dealt with the nobles of the kingdom. Duke Stag didn't even give his own son any face, so naturally he would be even more ruthless to the others. Facts were like this. After the news of Leslie being expelled was spread, Duke Stag moved even faster. In just a month, a large number of nobles in the Lampari kingdom were condemned, and the level of involvement was getting wider and higher. Not only were there 4 city lords stripped of their titles, even one of the ministers of the Lampari kingdom's military, Duke Festalin, who was known as the Lampuri Eagle in the Lampari kingdom, was imprisoned for treason. Even a duke that was considered high up among the nobles couldn't escape. It could be seen just how determined and ambitious the conservative nobles of the Lampari kingdom represented by Duke Stag were. However, this time, it inevitably caused a strong backlash in the Lampari kingdom. In addition to many newspapers criticizing the recent events in the Lampari kingdom, claiming that this was destabilizing the kingdom, many nobles who were held accountable even directly rebelled. When the royal parliament's police entered the manor of a city lord and tried to capture him, they met the fierce resistance of the city lord's private guards. Both sides exchanged fire and the police paid the price of over 100 casualties to capture this city lord. The private guards of a noble fighting with the royal parliament's police was without a doubt a very serious matter. In the laws of the kingdom, this could even be considered treason. However, in this situation, this didn't count for anything. This matter was like a fuse that instantly ignited the tense situation in the Lampari kingdom. When capturing the other nobles, the royal parliament's police met more and more fierce resistance and their casualties increased. After finding that the police couldn't capture them, the parliament even sent out the kingdom's garrison. However, this action created an even stronger backlash. According to the rules set when the Lampari kingdom was founded, the kingdom's garrison was only used to protect the kingdom and couldn't be used to deal with the nobles. Now that Duke Stag had broken this taboo with his power, it naturally attracted the anger of all the nobles in the Lampari kingdom. It was fine for those small nobles who didn't have any power, but the nobles who had real power and were on different sides from Duke Stag knew that they would be targeted by Duke Stag sooner or later, so they all made preparations ahead of time. For a while, the Lampari kingdom was filled with a tense atmosphere. There were even many newspapers that were worried that with the current situation, if they weren't careful, a civil war would break out in the kingdom. Purring. Eric slapped the table and suddenly stood up, angrily looking at Duke Stag in front of him. It was hard for him to hold back the curse in his throat as he roared with a dark face, "Duke Stag, I trusted you and felt that you could take care of this matter, so I gave everything to you and didn't care about it. But look at it now. What has the kingdom become? What do you want to do? Do you really want to start a civil war?" This was Eric's first time shouting at Duke Stag in front of him. Duke Stag looked at him with a bit of surprise before saying with a faint smile, "Your Majesty, please be assured. Everything is under my control. These people are just weakly moaning right now, it won't affect anything. This still won't affect anything? Eric slapped the document on the table in front of him and angrily said, Kalibo City has even declared independence. Could it be that you think this isn't a problem? Duke Stagg looked over the document and slightly knit his brows before saying with a smile, Your Majesty, since Count Anabai has already done this, of course we can't let him go. Please be assured, I have already sent the Second Army of the garrison to Kalibo City. With the strength of the Second Army, I believe that in less than half a month, you will see Kalibo City return to the embrace of the kingdom. You've already sent the Second Army? Eric looked into Duke Stagg's eyes as he coldly asked this. Yes, Your Majesty. Eric paused and deliberately waited for a bit, but he found that Duke Stagg didn't plan on explaining at all, so he couldn't help feeling angry. The Lampari Kingdom's garrison had always been the private army of the Lampari Kingdom's royal family since the Lampari Kingdom was founded. It could be considered the royal family's final trump card. However, after Eric took the throne, the kingdom's garrison gradually fell under the control of Duke Stagg. Although the most elite First Army was still loyal and only listened to the king's orders, the Second Army was now completely under the command of Duke Stagg. Even Eric's orders couldn't reach the Second Army at all. When Lampuri XIII was still alive, he had sent the Third Army of the kingdom's garrison to Seoul City. In name, it was to strengthen the defenses of the northern border, preventing the Sak Kingdom from invading. But to Eric back then, because Seoul City's city lord was Count Samo and Samo Count supported Seveni, Lampuri XIII had ordered the Third Army of the kingdom's garrison to be under the command of Seoul City's city lord, which was without a doubt Lampuri XIII's support for Seveni taking the throne. It was because of this that Eric made his decision. Under Duke Stagg's enticement, he took a risk and poisoned Lampuri XIII, finally taking the throne with Duke Stagg's help. At that time, Eric felt that his actions were very correct, but looking back now, he found that Lampuri XIII sending the Third Army of the kingdom's garrison was a great move. If the Third Army wasn't left in Anvilmar City, it would have already fallen into Duke Stagg's hands. If it really became like this, Eric wouldn't have any confidence in front of Duke Stagg at all. Thinking of this, Eric's face sunk and he said with a serious look, Immediately order them to stop. Without my orders, they aren't allowed to attack Kalibo City at all. Duke Stagg was surprised. Your Majesty, could it be that you're planning on letting Count Anabai go and watching Kalibo City become independent? Of course not. Eric shook his head. But the way to solve this problem doesn't have to be this rough. Count Anabai chose to do this for a reason. After saying this, Eric looked at Duke Stagg with a gaze of deep meaning. We just need to solve Count Anabai's worries, and I believe we can peacefully solve this matter. There's no need to use force and let the kingdom fall into a shameful civil war. Seeing Eric's serious appearance, Duke Stagg knit his brows. Your Majesty, could it be that you're planning on forgiving a disgraceful fellow who wants to split the kingdom? Eric softly looked at him. I haven't convicted Count Anabai yet. But, there are no buts. Eric cut Duke Stagg off without any politeness. Duke Stagg raised a brow and looked at Eric before lowering his head. Yes, Your Majesty, I will go and give your orders to the Second Army of the garrison. After silently waiting for a bit and seeing that Eric didn't have any more orders, Duke Stagg left. Seeing the door close, Eric felt his body turn soft as he slumped down in his chair. His hands unconsciously clenched, but he found that his hands didn't have any strength. His entire body felt weak, and he was covered in cold sweat, with his palms covered in sweat. This was his first time acting this tough in front of Duke Stagg. Although he was very nervous and felt like he had just fought a big battle, he felt strangely refreshed. Lying in the chair and looking at the ceiling in a daze for a while, Eric finally let out a long sigh. He had been on the throne for over a year, but only today did he feel like a king. Chapter 561. As for Eric's feelings, Sue-yi would never be able to understand. Since the establishment of the New Flyer, he had great prestige in the Chamber of Commerce and could be said to mean what he said. And when he obtained this territory from Lord Wine and officially became the Lord of the Principality of Constantine, he obtained the status of a king in this territory. Of course, he wasn't like Eric, who was just an empty shell of a king. Because of the special situation in the Principality of Constantine, Sue-yi now had this territory and could plan it as he wished. He didn't have to worry about anyone interfering with him, or even chasing him away. At least in the Principality of Constantine, there wasn't a single lord that was blind enough to provoke him. Even all the lords in the Principality of Constantine, including Duke Stantine, were eager to curry favor with Sue-yi and think of ways to establish a good relationship with him and the New Flyer. It was for no other reason than to be able to buy suitable military magic machines from the New Flyer. The war between Lord Wine and Count Fran lasted for over 4 months before Lord Wine obtained a complete victory. He snatched all of Fran Count's territory and declared the end. In the Principality of Constantine, Lord Wine and Count Fran weren't considered weak and didn't fight frequently. This was because both sides were considered vassals in the Principality of Constantine. Whether it was territory, population, or military strength, they were similar. Even if there was a conflict, it would at most be resolved in a small area. It was very rare for one side to be completely wiped out like this. Originally, all the lords in the Principality of Constantine thought that Lord Wine and Count Fran would fight in the same way. They didn't expect that in the first 2 months it would be a normal conflict. But in the 3rd month, the strength of Wine's personal guards would suddenly increase and Fran Count wouldn't be able to resist at all. In the end, in less than 2 months, Lord Wine completely broke through and even Fran Count was defeated and killed. This result greatly exceeded everyone's expectations. After many inquiries, the lords in the Principality of Constantine finally knew the reason why Lord Wine's subordinates were so fierce. It was because Lord Wine had purchased a large number of military magic machines from New Flyer. Lord Wine's personal guards weren't famous for their fighting strength in the Principality of Constantine, but after being equipped with various military magic machines produced by New Flyer, their fighting strength increased sharply. They completely defeated Fran Count's personal guards, which was enough to show the power of the military magic machines. At the same time, in the south of the Principality of Constantine, Viscount Anclo, who was also equipped with military magic weapons from New Flyer, was also invincible. He had defeated several lords in the Principality of Constantine and now occupied a huge territory of more than 3,000 square kilometers. It was even larger than Sue-yi's private territory. Viscount Anclo's subordinates were also equipped with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's military magic machines, which was why they had such strong battle strength. Then with the change in battle strength of Lord Wine's personal guards, it wasn't hard to come to a conclusion. The simplest and most direct way to increase the fighting strength of his subordinates was to equip them with military magic machines produced by New Flyer. So before Lord Wine had completely defeated Count Fran, countless lords in the Principality of Constantine sent people to contact New Flyer. They wanted to buy various military magic machines from New Flyer. So whether Sue-yi was willing or not, he had become an arms dealer like he had expected before. But he wouldn't sell to just anyone. When he gave instructions to Kennard, he clearly stated that he couldn't sell military magic machines to the lords of the Principality of Constantine who were currently in direct conflict with Lord Wine and Anclo. As for the specifics of the transaction, he didn't participate in it at all. After sending Leslie away, he spent most of his time developing the magic boat. At the same time, he spent quite a bit of time studying magic with Great Magician Camilla. According to Great Magician Camilla's evaluation of him, he was already at the threshold of becoming a great magician. As long as he worked harder and deepened his understanding of magic, He could break through at any time and become a great magician. The difference between a great magician and a normal magician was too big. Even if Sue wasn't that interested in magic, he had to treat this matter seriously. It was a good thing that he had resources that most of the magicians in the signs couldn't compare to. Not only did he have great magician Camilla, who was already a 5th-grade great magician, to teach him, he could also ask great magician Tolucci for advice. Other than this, whether it was the Nightsong tribe's elder Elucia or the Moon Shadow tribe's elder Lysania, they both had magic power that surpassed human great magicians. Moreover, the two of them were elves, so their understanding of magic far surpassed that of humans. There was no doubt that they would be of great help to Sue in this aspect. Because of their cooperation with the new flyer, the Nightsong tribe was filled with vitality. Especially since the birth rate of the tribe was several times higher than before, even increasing the tribe's population for 3 years in a row. Elder Elucia was now even more approving of their cooperation with the new flyer, or rather with Sue. But because Sue was a human, she was always worried that Sue would be limited by a human's lifespan and would die soon. Therefore, she was very concerned that Sue could become a great magician and extend his lifespan. Sue had always been unwilling before because he didn't have enough time to focus on studying magic. Elder Elucia also didn't have any good methods. Now that Sue was willing to focus on studying magic, Elder Elucia was even more concerned than great magician Camilla. She also convinced Elder Lysania to give Sue special tutoring. Only this special tutoring method made Sue feel very awkward. I say, the two elders, there's no need to take off all of your clothes, right? Sue covered his lower body that only had his underwear left. His face was slightly red as he spoke with an awkward expression. This was Sue's bedroom in the manor on the cliff of the Shinfei farm in the Principality of Constantine. Right now there was only Sue, Elder Elucia, and Elder Lysania in the room. Of course you have to take off all of your clothes. If you don't take off all of your clothes, how will we know the condition of your bones and magic conductors? Elder Lysania looked at Sue in confusion. But this would be a bit disrespectful to you, Sue said in an awkward voice. Disrespectful? The two elders were stunned. Elder Elucia thought about it before shaking her head with a smile. Chairman Sue, you're thinking too much. You're a human, and we're elves. We're even different species. You don't have to be embarrassed. Besides, even if you look at it from the perspective of humans, we're already hundreds of years old. What's there to be embarrassed about in front of us? Elder Lysania understood what Sue meant. She frowned slightly and shook her head. Don't use your humans' unnecessary sense of shame to measure us elves. We're not like you humans who are filled with filthy thoughts. Elder Lysania then glanced at Sue's lower body. Don't tell me that, Chairman Sue, you're also lusting after us two old elven women? You humans. To be precise, human males are really an incredible species. Sue couldn't help but roll his eyes. This was a normal human desire, okay? The two elders kept saying that they were old women, but no matter how one looked at them, they looked no different from human girls in their early 20s. How could one associate them with being hundreds of years old? Moreover, as elven elders, not only did they possess the usual beauty and elegance of elven women, they also possessed nobility, wisdom, and a strong sense of mystery that ordinary elven women did not possess. In fact, they were even more attractive than ordinary elven women. As for different races, the elves weren't the beastmen. For humans, the elves were the rulers of this continent, so humans had always considered the elves as their goal. In the days after the end of the racial war, the elves had been living in seclusion outside the human world because many humans were proud to have an elven slave. This led to humans wantonly capturing elves, forcing the elves to live in seclusion. All right, Chairman Sue, don't waste any more time. Quickly take it off. Seeing that Sue was still hesitating, Elder Lysania urged him. Because Elder Elucia had been in contact with Sue for a long time, and because she had worked with Sue for a long time, she respected him and didn't urge him. But she still looked at Sue, and the urge in her eyes was very clear. Seeing that the two of them didn't have any intentions of compromising and thinking that he would be chased back by great magician Camilla if he went out, Sue could only give a helpless sigh. He took off the final piece of cloth and revealed a heroic appearance, standing there like he was facing death. Elder Elucia and Elder Lasagna's eyes swept over Sue from head to toe, carefully looking over him several times. Then the two of them revealed looks of joy at the same time as they looked at each other and nodded. Very good, Chairman Sue, your body is very good. As long as there isn't a problem with your magic power conduction line, I think you should be able to learn to use the magic power meditation method unique to us elves. This will help you become a great magician as soon as possible. Chapter 562. Then you refused? Steele asked in a curious voice before placing her hands on Sue-Yi's shoulders again. The white and tender fingers that were filled with strength, as well as the skillful technique Steele had invented, made Sue-Yi feel his entire body relax. He couldn't help letting out a satisfied moan. After letting out a few comfortable moans, Sue-Yi let out a sigh and replied, "Of course I refused. Could it be that you want me to marry an elven wife?" "There's nothing bad about that," Steele said with a faint smile. "Elven girls are all so beautiful and their personalities are much more straightforward than normal human girls, making them easier to get along with. For example, Agnes is very good." "That's right. How about you ask Elder Elucia to marry Agnes? Agnes often says that she likes being with you, so I think that if you want to marry her, she won't oppose it. Moreover, if it's her, it'll be easy for us to get along with her. Isn't that good?" "What's good about it?" Sue-Yi looked at her in annoyance. "Stop joking, I'm a human, how could I really marry an elven girl? Then again, I already have you as my wife, so I won't marry another woman. I don't oppose you marrying a few more." Steele laid on Sue-Yi's shoulder and said with a soft laugh in his ear, "Anyway, I'm very busy right now and don't have much time to accompany you. As for Liz and Linda, they don't have much to talk to you about, so marrying a few more wives to accompany you isn't a bad thing, right?" Sue-Yi looked at Steele with a frown. "Are you telling the truth? Don't forget, you're my only wife right now. I don't believe that you really want me to marry a few more wives." "Of course. That's a lie." Steele giggled. "Of course I want you to only belong to me and only have me in your heart. But this kind of thinking is too selfish. With your current position, if you can only have one woman, many people will accuse me of being too jealous. Even grandfather told me that you're the only one left in your family. In order for your family to grow, you should have a few more women and have more children. Are you treating me like a stud horse?" Sue-Yi knit his brows. He grabbed Steele's hand on his shoulder and pulled her in front of him. He stared into her eyes and said with a serious look, "Don't worry about what others say, Steele. I just want you to tell me if you like this. Tell me the truth." Still avoided Sue-Yi's eyes and after pausing, she said with a soft sigh, "Of course I'm not willing to share you with others, but grandfather is right and the others are right. I've said, don't care about what others think. As long as you're not willing, it's enough." Sue-Yi said seriously, "Although I'm a normal man and I've thought about having countless beautiful women in my arms, as a man, I have to be responsible for my wife. You're my wife, so I'll only take care of your thoughts first. It doesn't matter what the other women think. Actually, if it wasn't for your insistence or connivance, I wouldn't even touch Liz and Linda. Do you believe me?" Steele looked at Sue-Yi in a daze for a while before slowly nodding. Her eyes were a bit hazy. "I believe you. Sue-Yi, you're this kind of person. You're different from most men in this world. Evita and Akali are right. Being able to meet you and become your wife is my fortune. You're wrong. Being able to meet you is my fortune." Sui smiled and pinched Steele's face. So don't let your imagination run wild. I'm satisfied with having you as my wife. I'm not interested in marrying a few more. Moreover, I'm even less interested in the marriage proposal from Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania, which has obvious political implications. I even hate it. Hearing Su Yi's blunt comments, Steele froze for a moment before waking up from being touched. You're saying that Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania want you to marry an elven girl. Is it a proposal with political implications? Steele frowned. They're elves. Would they do something like that? The elves aren't as otherworldly as you think. If it was like this, they wouldn't have chosen to cooperate with me, Sui said with a smile. And this isn't my own speculation. It's what Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania said. They told you personally that it was a proposal with political implications. Steele asked in shock. Of course they wouldn't be so straightforward. But the two elders told me very straightforwardly that the reason they made this proposal was to deepen the relationship between me and the two elven tribes. It would be best if I could have offspring with the elven girl in their tribe. This way, the two elven tribes could be more integrated into human society. That doesn't seem right. Steele was a bit confused. Don't the elves always look down on humans? Because of this, the half-elves born from the union of elves and humans would have a harder time in the elven tribe than in the human tribe. Why would the two elders take the initiative to make this proposal? This is also a symbol of their change. The two elders said that if the elves want to fully integrate into human society and continue to survive on this continent, this is a step that must be taken. The other humans and elves of the two tribes won't accept them, so I'm the only human that has received the approval of the elves of the two tribes, so I'm the most suitable. Sui explained. It's like this? Steele knit her brows to think about it before giving a gentle nod. No wonder you feel that this proposal is filled with political implications. This is because the two elders made this proposal for the future of the elves, but they didn't consider any emotional factors at all. I think, as long as you agree, perhaps they'll let you pick any elven beauty from the two tribes. How about it, Sui? Are you moved? Che, have I not seen enough elven beauties in the past 2 years? Not to mention Agnes seeing them often, even yesterday. Sui suddenly stopped. Even if he didn't care about anything in front of Steele, he was embarrassed to say that he had been naked with Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania yesterday. But as the mistress of the manor, how could Steele not know what happened yesterday? Seeing Sui suddenly stop, she immediately understood what he wanted to say and covered her mouth as she secretly laughed. What? Sui? Could it be that you don't like the normal elven girls and like the two elders? Seeing Steele laugh until her eyes turned into crescent moons, Sui angrily slapped her butt and roared, What nonsense are you saying? Alright, let's stop discussing this matter. Anyway, I won't agree, so don't think too much about this matter, understand? Steele rubbed her, but that was a bit sore from being slapped by Sui, and said with a faint smile, I saw the way the two elders looked at you before they left. I'm afraid they won't give up that easily. The elves are famous for being stubborn. Since the two elders have already made their decision, and it's for such an important reason, they will definitely think of a way to achieve their goal. Sui gave a cold snort. I won't agree. Can they force me? They can't send out a few elven girls to rape me, right? Steele pursed her lips into a smile. That might not be the case. Sui glared at her. After thinking about it, he got up and put on his clothes before heading out. What are you going to do now? You're not going to take this time to rest? Steele asked in a surprised voice. I suddenly thought of something. I don't have time to rest. Sui waved his hand. If there's anything, use the magic communicator. After saying this, Sui left the manor and got into his magic sedan. He drove to the new administrative center that New Flyer had built in their territory. Sui directly found Kennard and had him list all the projects that New Flyer and the elves were cooperating on. Sir Chairman, look, our company's main partner is the Nightsong Tribe. That includes the Nightsong Tribe's plastic processing factory that relies on our new flyers sales channels to make sales, as well as the tire processing factory that we've built together, and the Nightsong Tribe provides some technical support. Other than this, there are many elves from the Nightsong Tribe that are working in our company's other factories, which can be considered a part of our cooperation. What about the Moon Shadow Tribe? Sui asked. There's less cooperation with the Moon Shadow Tribe, it's mainly focused on the fertilizer processing factory. But the fertilizer sales have been increasing in the past 2 years, so if we're talking about the amount of money involved, it isn't worse than the cooperation between our company and the Nightsong Tribe. Then can you calculate the amount of money involved in our cooperation with the Nightsong Tribe and the Moon Shadow Tribe? Sui asked. Kennard slightly knit his brows. There isn't any specific data, but according to last month's financial report, the amount of money involved in the Nightsong Tribe and the Moon Shadow Tribe should be close to 500,000 gold coins. Our company has earned around 100,000 gold coins from these projects. Then the Nightsong Tribe and the Moon Shadow Tribe have earned around 100,000 gold coins from this? According to the agreement we signed, it should be a bit more than us, around 150 to 200,000 gold coins. Hearing this answer, Suyi's expression became a bit strange. The Nightsong Tribe and the Moon Shadow Tribe earned less than 200,000 gold coins from their cooperation with the new flyer, but it was enough for Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania to put aside their pride as elves and take the initiative to help Sui increase his magic power. They even wanted him to marry an elven girl. Looking at it this way, the elves weren't as arrogant as the legends said. If the two elven tribes earned a bit more, then wouldn't it be possible for the elves to work for him? Chapter 563. After being rejected by Sui, Elder Elucia and Elder Lysania did not mention this matter again for a while. Rather, they focused on helping Sui grasp the special meditation method of the elves. After a month of careful teaching, Sui finally grasped this special meditation method that was very different from human magicians. The elves had always been the teachers of magic to humans. Even though the elves had been on the decline for thousands of years, they had always been far ahead of humans in terms of magic research. Coupled with their tens of thousands of years of accumulation, the elves had many unique and outstanding aspects of magic. This special meditation method was one of them. After grasping the special meditation method of the elves, Sui experimented with this meditation method. He could clearly find that his mana recovery and increased speed were much faster than before. Although part of this was due to the two elders working together to cleanse his body several times to adjust to the flow of mana, this special meditation method was without a doubt the biggest contribution. If it was based on the previous speed, Suyi's mana would increase steadily. When he was over 40 years old, his mana would be strong enough to control spatial magic, and he would be considered a true great magician. But with this meditation method, Suyi's mana increase speed had greatly increased, and he could at least save half the time. If it was even more optimistic, Sui could even reach the level of a great magician by the age of 35. As for the study of magic, that would depend on Suyi's own comprehension. However, this problem was the one that gave Sui the biggest headache. It was also the problem that great magician Camilla and the two elders were helpless against. Sui always placed the most importance on the development of the new flyer and the magic machine industry. His interest in magic could only be ranked second, so he could never fully immerse himself in the study of magic like other magicians, so naturally he couldn't increase his speed to the limit. The only consolation was that Suyi's talent was indeed outstanding and his understanding of magic far surpassed normal magicians. Generally speaking, as long as his magic power could keep up, there was no magic that he could not master. So in the end, he still had to wait for his magic power to reach the level of a great magician before he could truly attack the realm of a great magician. However, there was no shortcut to the accumulation of mana. Even though Su-Yi had mastered the special meditation method of the elves and greatly increased the speed of his mana growth, he still had to meditate day by day and accumulate mana bit by bit until that day came. Regarding this, whether it was great magician Camilla or the two elders, they couldn't do anything. So when Su-Yi truly grasped the special meditation method of the elves, the two elders left and returned to their own tribes. Before leaving, they still didn't propose marriage to Su-Yi again, which made Su-Yi think that they had really given up on the idea. In order to increase his magic power, Su-Yi had wasted close to 2 months. When the two elders left and he returned to normal from his wild magic research, he found that there was a pile of things that he needed to take care of. In the middle of August, when the weather was at its hottest, Su-Yi appeared in the production base of several companies on the Black Rice Wasteland. Actually, it wasn't accurate to call this place a production base because since the new flyer left Banta City and the Lampari Kingdom, the other companies of Banta City all moved here. This production base that was less than 20,000 square meters had expanded by several times. Now there were countless large and small factories in this area, as well as a large residential area built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. There were many kinds of shops scattered all over this area that formed a living area. Then there were the training grounds for the guards of the various companies, the management center of the base, and other special facilities added together. This entire area was close to 10 square kilometers, which was comparable to a medium-sized city in the Lampari Kingdom. Because of the various companies and factories in this area, there were many people here. This level of prosperity could even compare to the previous Banta City. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's chairman Cruz had proposed to develop this place into a new city. They would build walls around it and set up defenses like a city, stopping the harassment of blind beastmen. But this proposal was rejected by Su-Yi. The main reason was that this was a business area created by the various companies, so it didn't have the foundation to become a normal city. Without leadership, even if most companies respected Su-Yi and the new flyer's opinions, it was hard to unite everyone. Secondly, Su-Yi didn't want to turn this place into a traditional city on the signs. He wanted to turn this place into a free trade center, while also becoming the center of the magic machine industry in the signs. The Black Rice Wasteland was a rare place on the signs where there was no government because of the beastmen, so it was very suitable to create a new order here. Su-Yi had this ambition and the new flyer also had this strength. So from the beginning, Su-Yi and the new flyer had been promoting this concept to everyone. This place was a free city, a city of commerce. Of course, even if this place couldn't be considered a traditional city, it could still be called a city. Because of their laziness, this place was named Black Rice City. Black Rice City didn't have a castellan's mansion or city guards. Basically, all the big and small matters were decided by the commerce union formed by the various companies in Black Rice City. New Flyer was one of the permanent directors of the Commerce Union. As the president of New Flyer, Su-Yi had a very high position in the Commerce Union and had a very strong influence in the entire Black Rice City. Even William Lantis, the commander of the Lampari Kingdom's Western Army, who controlled more than 30,000 soldiers of the Lampari Kingdom, would be very warm and polite whenever he saw Su-Yi. He didn't show any of the arrogance that he had when meeting other businessmen. "Chairman Su, I've been waiting for you for more than a month. I didn't expect you to only appear today," William Lantis said with a sad face. Su-Yi laughed. "I'm sorry, Commander Lantis. I've been busy with a very important matter recently, so I really couldn't take the time out. However, Kennard said that he had a very good time with you, so I don't have to worry too much." Of course. Commander Lantis nodded. "I invited Chairman Su here because I have something to ask of you. I should be the one worrying." Su-Yi smiled and shook his head. "Commander Lantis, you're exaggerating. Kennard has already told me in detail about your request. He also told me many other details. In principle, I don't have a reason to object because this is just a normal transaction. You want to buy the military magic machines from our company, and we want to sell them at the same time. This is very normal. However, Commander Lantis didn't say anything. He just stared at Sui and waited for him to continue. Seeing that Commander Lantis didn't take the initiative to mention it, Sui coughed softly and continued, however, Commander Lantis, are you sure that this transaction won't be interfered with by the Lampari Kingdom's military? Commander Lantis, you may not know this, but I'm actually still an advisor to the Lampari Kingdom's military, so I'm very clear about some taboos. Commander Lantis smiled. Kennard has already mentioned this to me several times, and I've always told him not to worry about it. Now that Chairman Su has asked me again, I'll still give the same answer. Chairman Su, you don't have to worry about anything. I guarantee on my reputation that the military will definitely not interfere with this transaction. All right, since Commander Lantis has already guaranteed on your reputation, of course I believe you. Sui nodded. Then let's move on to the next question. Commander Lantis, to put it bluntly, I'm sure that the Western City Army won't be able to fork out that much money. Then how do you plan on paying our Chamber of Commerce the gold coins needed to purchase those military magic machines? Commander Lantis clearly already knew that Sui would ask this question, so he just smiled after hearing the question. Then he waved at Sui and led him to a side hall next to the living room. The furnishings in the side hall were very simple, but there was a large map hanging on the wall facing the door. It almost took up the entire wall. Lieutenant Commander Lantis walked to the side of the map, picked up a wooden stick, and pointed it at the top of the map. Chairman Su, do you see the mark here? This is an iron mine. Commander Lantis said. Sui looked at the red dot on the map on the wooden stick and gave a slight nod. Commander Lantis moved the stick a little and pointed it at another red dot. Do you see the mark here? This is also an iron mine. Sui nodded again, but he was a bit confused. Commander Lantis pointed a few more times on the map, pointing out several iron mines, several magic crystal mines, and 2 non-ferrous metal mines. Chairman Su, do you think these mines are enough to pay for the military magic machines? Commander Lantis asked. Sui was stunned. He looked at the marks on the map that Commander Lantis had pointed out and asked in a surprised voice, Sir Commander, if I'm not wrong, the mines you mentioned are all in the Sac Kingdom, right? Commander Lantis revealed a dangerous smile. It's because they are in the Sac Kingdom that it's good. If they were in our Lampari Kingdom, I wouldn't be able to use them to make a price. Sui instantly understood Commander Lantis' true intentions from his words, and his eyes couldn't help narrowing. This Sir Commander really was crazy. Chapter 564. Commander Lantis' plan was just as Sui had guessed. He wanted to cooperate with the New Flyer and obtain the military magic machines from New Flyer. Then he would invade the Sac Kingdom and take some land from the Sac Kingdom. He would give the mineral resources of that land to New Flyer as compensation for buying the military magic machines. This idea was clearly too crazy. First, the Sac Kingdom was stronger than the Lampari Kingdom. In the several hundred years of history, the Sac Kingdom had always suppressed the Lampari Kingdom, and the Lampari Kingdom could only barely resist being invaded by the Sac Kingdom. In this situation, Commander Lantis was telling Sui that he wanted to use the mineral resources of the Sac Kingdom as payment. This was simply more laughable than drawing a cake to satisfy one's hunger. If the Sac Kingdom's land was that easy to invade, how could the Lampari Kingdom have been bullied by the Sac Kingdom for all these years? Second, even if the two countries were similar in strength, with the Western Army being supported by the military magic machines from New Flyer, they did have the strength to invade the Sac Kingdom and take a large piece of land from the Sac Kingdom. However, the Western Army's actions were without a doubt a great taboo. The Lampari Kingdom's army headquarters might allow the Western Army to buy the military magic machines from New Flyer to increase their battle strength, but the army headquarters definitely wouldn't allow the Western Army to invade the Sac Kingdom on their own. This was because this was equal to starting a war between the two countries. The Lampari Kingdom wasn't stable right now, and it was very likely that a civil war would break out. Whether it was the army headquarters or the high-level members of the kingdom, they definitely weren't willing to take the initiative to provoke the Lampari Kingdom. Other than these two main problems, there was a very real and important problem. It was that with New Flyer's current production capacity, it couldn't meet the demands of the Western Army at all. Although the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had been researching military magic machines for close to 3 years, because of the resistance in Su Yi's heart, they didn't invest that much. It wasn't until the Frestec Chamber of Commerce moved to the Stantine Duchy that they were forced to invest in military magic machines and gradually increased their production scale. With the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's current production capacity, other than being able to satisfy the needs of the guards of the other companies, they couldn't even satisfy the orders of the Stantine Duchy's lords for military magic machines. How could they have the spare capacity to satisfy the demand of the 30,000 soldiers of the Western Army? Besides, even if all these problems didn't exist and New Flyer could produce enough military magic machines to fully equip the Western Army, would the Western Army really be able to successfully complete this plan? Or rather, would Commander Lantis really fully implement this plan? Su Yi was very skeptical. After listening to Commander Lantis enthusiastically describe his grand plan, Su Yi pondered for a while and slowly shook his head. He couldn't directly say the other things he was worried about, so Su Yi focused on the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's lack of production. They couldn't meet the demands of the Western Army, which meant that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce couldn't take on such a large order. Commander Lantis smiled and said, "That's fine. I didn't think that I could equip the 30,000 soldiers of the Western Army in one go. As long as we do it bit by bit, we will be able to equip them all." Su Yi forced a smile. According to the standards of the New Flyer Guards, to equip a single soldier, it would cost at least 100 gold coins. This didn't include the magic trebuchets, magic bazookas, magic armored vehicles, and other military magic machines. If they were to equip the entire Western Army with this standard, it would cost at least 10 million gold coins. Adding in the normal training costs, it would cost several 100,000 gold coins a year or even more. This kind of large consumption, not to mention New Flyer, even the entire Lampari Kingdom wouldn't be able to support it. Then again, if New Flyer could really take out this much money, why didn't they invest it in their own company's guards and throw it in the Western Army that wasn't related to them? Su Yi had already closed the door to this cooperation in his heart, but seeing Commander Lantis' expectant and passionate eyes, while also worrying about the influence the Western Army had on the Black Rice Wasteland, he didn't immediately reject him. He seriously thought for a bit before speaking. "Lord Commander, how about this? Since you don't want to equip the Western Army in one go and our New Flyer doesn't have the ability to do this, how about we extend our cooperation and divide it into batches, solving it bit by bit? What do you think about this? The first batch, our company will have the Western Army provide it." After leaving the Western Army camp and getting into the magic sedan, Su Yi started the magic sedan and drove out of the camp. The smile on his face immediately disappeared and he gave a bitter laugh. According to his discussion with Commander Lantis, New Flyer would provide the Western Army with 500 magic repeating crossbows, 10 medium magic trebuchets, 1,000 sets of weapons and armor, 100 individual magic bazookas, and 5 magic armored vehicles in the next month. The total value of these items was close to 200,000 gold coins, and the price that the Western Army had to pay was only 2 promises from Commander Lantis. Commander Lantis promised that New Flyer would receive the full support of the Western Army in the future. No matter what New Flyer wanted to do on the Black Rice Wasteland, they would receive the help of the Western Army. Even if New Flyer wanted to do something in the Principality of Constantine, the Western Army would also support them. At the same time, if the Western Army could smoothly attack the Sac Kingdom, Commander Lantis would follow the plan and give all the mineral resources of the captured territory to New Flyer. Sue treated the latter promise about the Sac Kingdom as if it didn't exist. Rather, Sue was satisfied with the first promise. With the support of the Western Army, New Flyer would have the absolute right to speak on the Black Rice Wasteland. This would be very beneficial for New Flyer's development plan on the Black Rice Wasteland. The situation in the Principality of Constantine was even more chaotic, so if they could obtain the support of the Western Army, it would greatly increase the safety of New Flyer and Sue Yi's new territory. To put it bluntly, these close to 200,000 gold coins worth of military magic machines were equal to the protection fee that New Flyer gave to the Western Army. Although it was a bit expensive, it was very practical. Of course, Sue wasn't satisfied with this situation. He hoped that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be affected by anyone or any power and could smoothly develop. But New Flyer wasn't strong enough right now, so there were many times when they had to compromise. This kind of compromise wasn't just in the military, it was also common in the business world. After leaving the Western Army camp, Sue drove his magic sedan back to Black Rice City. Without resting at all, he gathered the representatives of the various companies of Black Rice City to hold a Black Rice City Business Union conference. At this conference, there was only one topic, which was clear standards. When the other companies were still in Banta City, because of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's undisputed leading position, all the standards for the magic machine industry were set by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. The other companies could only follow these standards. But after the situation changed and New Flyer left the Lampari Kingdom, the Magic Machine Industry Management Department that controlled all the magic machine industry in the Lampari Kingdom had set a new standard that was completely different from New Flyer. Whether it was the magic machines produced in the Lampari Kingdom or produced in other places, they had to follow this standard when transporting magic machines to the Lampari Kingdom, otherwise they wouldn't be approved for sale. Not mentioning the effects of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department on the Lampari Kingdom, it also had a large effect on the various companies that produced magic machines on the Black Rice Wasteland. Although most of these companies had withdrawn from the Lampari Kingdom, for many companies their main market was still the Lampari Kingdom. The people they sold their magic machines to were still the citizens of the Lampari Kingdom. Now that the Lampari Kingdom's Magic Machine Industry Management Department had set a new standard, it forced these companies to either follow this standard or give up on the market that had been developed by New Flyer in the Lampari Kingdom. However, it wasn't easy to completely change the standard. For many chambers of commerce, this was equivalent to completely overturning the previous foundation. For many chambers of commerce that weren't particularly strong, this was tantamount to a disaster. But if they didn't change the standard, they would lose the main market in the Lampari Kingdom, which was a dead end for these companies. The helpless companies could only look to the Frestec Chamber of Commerce for help. If New Flyer was willing to follow the rules of the Lampari Kingdom's Magic Machine Industry Management Department and help these companies that weren't that strong change their production lines, they could survive this crisis. However, Sue only had one evaluation for their thoughts. Idiots! Sue had never revealed such a cold expression in front of these people, and his tone was rarely this serious. Do you really think that as long as you change the standard, those fellows will let you go? Could it be that you didn't understand what happened in Banta City? Those greedy fellows want to chase everyone else out of the Lampari Kingdom. The representatives of the companies sitting in the conference room looked at each other with helpless expressions. Chairman Sue, actually we also understand this, but there's no other way. That's right, Chairman Sue, changing the standard isn't that hard for your New Flyer. As long as you make some adjustments to the magic machines, I feel that you should be able to meet the requirements of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. How is that? Seeing these people still holding on to hope, Sui gave a cold laugh and shook his head. No, your understanding of the standard is too shallow. Let me tell you, the competition for the standard is actually a life and death struggle. Once we follow the new standard of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, we will all be played in the palm of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. Even our new flyer can't resist. Do you think that your company is stronger than us? Everyone was silent. After a while, a company representative asked Sui, then, Chairman Su, do you have a way to solve this? Seeing everyone's hopeful gazes, Sui replied with a smile, it's very simple. Since those fellows in the Lampari Kingdom don't want us to meddle in the Lampari Kingdom's market, we'll just give up on this market. How can we do that? 90% of our products are sold to the Lampari Kingdom. If we give up on this market, wouldn't we be waiting for death? That's right, we're the same. We're the same. Don't forget, at this time last year, other than our new flyer, all the products of your companies were sold to the Lampari Kingdom, but now there's a portion that has been sold to other regions. Sui revealed a smile filled with confidence. Believe me, giving up on the Lampari Kingdom's market will make you suffer for a while, but you can take this chance to welcome an even bigger market. Not long after, I'm certain that the Lampari Kingdom's market will open up to us again. Chapter 565. Guji. Guji Guji. Guji Guji Guji. The magic fan let out an annoying sound and the fan blades suddenly slowed down. After a while, it stopped with an ear-piercing sound of friction. And Ailyman looked at the Kadek brand magic fan on the table in disgust before raising her voice to shout behind her, Old man, this damn magic fan is broken again. Old man Kutch ran out of the back hall covered in sweat. Seeing the magic fan on the table, he couldn't help cursing. This damn Kadek brand magic fan, how many times has it broken this month? And Ailyman gave a cold snort. I already told you that if you wanted to buy a magic fan, you had to buy the Shinfei brand magic fan, but you didn't listen. You bought this broken Kadek brand magic fan, and it breaks after using it, isn't it annoying? Old man Kutch angrily glared back at Aunt Ailyman. Didn't I already tell you, the Shinfei brand magic fan can't be bought at all right? It isn't like you don't know that it's very hard to buy the Shinfei brand household magic machines in the entire Lampari Kingdom. Where do you want me to steal one for you? Even if you can't buy the Shinfei brand magic fan, you can buy a Rig brand magic fan. If that doesn't work, you can buy a Silband brand magic fan that's much better than this damn Kadek brand magic fan. Why do you have to buy this broken thing? It was easy for people to be irritated in this hot weather, but now that Aunt Ailyman was speaking like this, Old Man Kutch was even more irritated. He angrily waved his hand and loudly shouted, How many times do you want me to say this? Not to mention the Shinfei brand magic fan, even the Rig brand and Silband brand magic fans can't be bought this year. Let me tell you, since last month, other than the Kadek brand magic fan, you can't buy any other brand of magic fan. And Ailyman was stunned. Then why did I see 2 Silband brand magic fans in the servants' room when I went to help Viscount Enrique's house last time? Nonsense. How can I compare to Viscount Enrique? They bought it from the 70 Chamber of Commerce. I don't have that connection. Then again, the Silo brand magic fan is 3 silver coins more expensive than the Kadek brand magic fan, so of course I'll choose the cheaper one. What's the use of being cheap? Now that it's broken, these gold coins are basically wasted. Auntie Ailyman said angrily. How would I know that this damn Kadek brand magic fan wouldn't last? Old man Kutch waved his hand in annoyance. Alright. Don't say any more. I'll get it fixed right away. Damn, it costs 10 silver coins to fix it each time. Adding in the several dozen silver coins I spent this month, I should have bought the Silo brand magic fan back then. Auntie Ailyman gave a snort, but she didn't keep blaming Old Man Kutch. Rather, she scolded in a cold voice, "That damn Kadek Chamber of Commerce, they had to force the new flyer and the other companies away, causing us to be unable to find a suitable magic fan. Humph, I'll remember this. Even if I don't buy anything in the future, I definitely won't buy anything from the Kadek Chamber of Commerce." Old Man Kutch shook his head. He thought that all the magic machines in the Lampari Kingdom were controlled by the 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department, and the other companies' magic machines were of the same quality as the Kadek Chamber of Commerce's magic fan. They were all equally bad. If one decided not to buy anything from the Kadek Chamber of Commerce, it was better to make a decision and not buy any household magic machines. But once one got used to using household magic machines, if they suddenly stopped using them, it would be very hard for them to adapt, and they would feel that their lives were very inconvenient. It wasn't clear on the other cities of the Lampari Kingdom, but at least everyone in Banta City was already used to living a much more convenient life with household magic machines. If they were to return to their previous lives, there would be a large group of people who would feel very uncomfortable. However, thinking about it, since the new flyer left Banta City and even left the Lampari Kingdom, followed by a large group of companies that produced magic machines, the prosperity of Banta City had long disappeared. Although the people of Banta City could still find work to make ends meet, if they wanted to have a satisfying high income like before, that was just wishful thinking. Almost all the young people of Banta City chose to leave Banta City, heading to the Black Rice Wasteland, the Principality of Constantine, the Mirando Duchy, the Kingdom of Ruhr, and other places. They followed in the footsteps of the companies represented by the new flyer, continuing to pursue rich wages. There was no one who was willing to stay in Banta City and be exploited by the 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. The people who stayed in Banta City had a large drop in their income. How could they have enough money to buy household magic machines and live a comfortable life like before? But Aunt Ailyman, who never read the newspapers and didn't care about the Lampari Kingdom's matters, knew nothing about this. Old Man Kutch knew that it was no use talking to her about this, so he could only shake his head. He picked up the Kadek brand magic fan on the table and left the house. When he went from Old Man Kutch's house to the Kadek Chamber of Commerce's repair shop outside the city, he would pass by the 70 Chamber of Commerce's shop. Old Man Kutch had casually taken a few looks before and didn't pay much attention to it, but when he passed by this time, because Aunt Ailyman had mentioned the 70 Chamber of Commerce, he couldn't help taking a few more looks. Looking carefully, he found that the 70 Chamber of Commerce's shop had fewer products compared to when he passed by before. At a glance, the entire shop was empty. There were only a few dozen household magic machines scattered around, and even a few of the shop assistants were missing. Old Man Kutch stopped to look for a while before he couldn't take the curiosity in his heart and walked in. Seeing Old Man Kutch come in, although the clerks came forward to greet him, it was clear that the smiles on their faces were very forced and their attitudes weren't warm at all. It was like they weren't willing to receive customers at all. Old Man Kutch was even more surprised. He had heard many people say that the 70 Chamber of Commerce's service was very good. No matter what kind of customer they faced, they would always welcome them with the most warm smile. So why was it different today? Could it be that they were looking down on him? Old Man Kutch was a bit depressed. He looked around the empty shop and couldn't help asking the clerks, "Have you bought everything here? Why didn't you put more things here? How ugly would it look like this?" The 2 clerks looked at each other before one of them said with a sigh, "This place is about to close and won't be open for business, so we won't be bringing in any new goods. This customer, may I ask if you need anything to buy a new magic fan? We only have 2 Silban brand magic fans left, so if you're interested, we can give you a discount." Seeing the clerk's eyes fall onto the Kadek brand magic fan in his hand, Old Man Kutch suddenly felt a bit ashamed. He awkwardly pulled his hand back and hid the Kadek brand magic fan behind him. Then he remembered the clerk's reply and was surprised. This place is closing? Why, isn't the business here very good? We don't know the specifics, we just received orders that this shop would be closing in a week. The clerk replied. Old Man Kutch suddenly felt a bit of anger. Could it be that this place was forced to close by those bastards from the Magic Machine Industry Management Department? Thinking about it, it felt wrong. This was Her Highness Seveni's shop. How could the Magic Machine Industry Management Department be bold enough to force Her Highness Seveni to close? We're not clear on this. We're very sorry that we can't answer your question. The clerk was clearly well trained, still maintaining a faint smile. This customer, do you want to buy the Silband brand magic fan? Old Man Kutch looked in the direction the clerk was pointing at and saw a Silband brand magic fan on a display stand. Seeing the magic fan's smooth and white plastic shell, as well as the silver glowing aluminum alloy protective cover that was clearly made with care, he looked down at the Kadek brand magic fan in his hand that had a rough surface that even had wires of different thicknesses. Old Man Kutch suddenly couldn't suppress the anger that filled his heart. After pausing, Old Man Kutch suddenly threw the Kadek brand magic fan in his hand onto the ground. Purring. Old Man Kutch used a lot of strength, and adding in the fact that the Kadek brand magic fan wasn't that good to begin with a single hit, it instantly shattered into parts, and even the fan blades turned into pieces. Looking over the messy things on the ground, Old Man Kutch still didn't vent his anger. He raised his foot to stomp on it a few times, until the Kadek brand magic fan couldn't be seen before he finally stopped. The two clerks were scared by Old Man Kutch's sudden actions. Seeing him stomp on the Kadek brand magic fan like it was an enemy, the two clerks were a bit confused. Why was this middle-aged man, who looked very honest on the outside, so angry? Moreover, his anger didn't come without reason. Who was he venting it on? It was a good thing Old Man Kutch didn't make any other moves. After he stopped, he said to the two stunned clerks in a deep voice, I want to buy a Silband brand magic fan, wrap it up for me. Oh, please wait a minute. One of the clerks quickly ran to the warehouse in the back of the store. When he was halfway there, Old Man Kutch suddenly shouted, Wait a minute. The clerks turned around and looked at Old Man Kutch with a confused look. You just said that there are only 2 Silband brand magic fans left in your store? That's right. Other than these 2 Silband brand magic fans? Are there any other brands of magic fans? The clerk looked at the Kadek brand magic fan that had already turned into a pile of broken pieces and shook his head. No, our store doesn't sell the Kadek brand magic fans. If you need one, please buy it from the Kadek Chamber of Commerce. Bullshit. Old Man Kutch angrily said, Even if I die, I won't buy a broken thing from the Kadek Chamber of Commerce. Wrap up the 2 Silband brand magic fans for me, I'll buy them both. The 2 clerks were stunned. Chapter 566. Your Highness, this is the final financial report of the store. Please take a look. Seveni looked at the final financial report of the Seveni Chamber of Commerce in the hands of the deacon and gave a sigh. After looking it over, she gave a bitter laugh. I never thought that in just a few months we would earn several thousand gold coins. It's no wonder those people are thinking of ways to chase out New Flyer. The deacon was a bit confused as he looked at Seveni. Why did Her Highness mention the Frestek Chamber of Commerce when she saw this financial report? Could it be that it was like the rumors, that Her Highness had a close relationship with the New Flyer's chairman, which was why she kept paying attention to New Flyer? Take out these several thousand gold coins and use it all to buy food. Then give it to the people in the villages outside Tag City. They suffered a flood a while ago, so these food should be able to help them pass this time. Seveni said. Yes. The deacon nodded in response before praising with a smile. Your Highness really is benevolent. The people in those villages aren't citizens of our territory, and you're actually thinking about them. If the city lord of Tag City knew about this, he would definitely feel ashamed. Although they aren't citizens of my territory, they are citizens of the Lampari kingdom. As the princess, I should care about them. Seveni softly replied. But your majesty. The deacon paused before swallowing the words in his throat. Seveni looked at him with a warning in her eyes before waving her hand. All right, you can take care of these matters. The deacon quickly gave a nod before leaving. Seeing the deacon leave, Seveni gave a sigh before revealing a bitter smile. Closing the Seveni Chamber of Commerce wasn't her intention. Seveni was planning on using her own efforts to make the Seveni Chamber of Commerce a window for the magic machine companies led by New Flyer to keep in contact with the Lampari Kingdom, maintaining this relationship. But some time ago, Eric took the initiative to summon her and had a long talk with her. During their talk, Eric clearly told Seveni that he hoped that she wouldn't rashly interfere with the kingdom's internal affairs because it would make it hard for him as the king. Although Seveni proposed that the Magic Machine Industry Management Department would work with the 10 companies that represented the interests of the nobles of the kingdom, pushing out New Flyer and the other companies, creating a very bad influence on the Lampari kingdom, she was doing this to recover some losses. But Eric didn't support Seveni's idea. He said that the Magic Machine Industry Management Department's actions had the support of the kingdom's conservative nobles, so this situation was already irreversible. Even he as the king couldn't change it, not to mention Seveni who didn't have any real power. But Eric also said that he was very clear on the current situation in the kingdom and he was working hard to control it. Eric hinted to Seveni that he was taking back his power bit by bit from the nobles led by Duke Stag, trying to control the Lampari kingdom. So he hoped that Seveni wouldn't make any moves during this time to avoid messing up his plans. Although Seveni didn't completely agree with Eric's idea, thinking that Eric was sitting on the throne and she was Eric's blood-related little sister, she should support him, so she was convinced by Eric in the end. After that, Seveni stopped all the business of the Seveni Chamber of Commerce and gradually closed all the shops of the Seveni Chamber of Commerce in the Lampari Kingdom. At the same time, she gradually gave the factories under her name to the 10 companies of the Magic Machine Industry Management Department. Up to this point, Seveni's efforts through the Seveni Chamber of Commerce had all been for naught. Compared to before the Seveni Chamber of Commerce was established, the Lampari Kingdom was now firmly controlled by the 10 companies, or rather the large nobles. To Seveni, the situation in the kingdom would only get worse. This naturally filled Seveni's heart with frustration. She wanted to use her own power to change the situation of the kingdom, but she never thought that she would stop halfway when she had just started. Thinking of how Sue called her naive before, Seveni couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. I hope that Eric can smoothly carry out his plan and take back control of the kingdom step by step. Seveni gave a sigh and shook her head, throwing this problem to the side. Because the Seveni Chamber of Commerce was closing, many of the refugees that Seveni had arranged to work for the Seveni Chamber of Commerce needed a new place to go. Of course, Seveni wouldn't send them back to their original territories and let them continue being exploited by the lords. But letting them stay in their territories would go against the rules of the nobles. It would be easy for the royal family to be blamed and Eric would be in a passive position. So after Seveni thought about it, she found that she could only ask Sue for help again. It was a good thing that Sue agreed to all of Seveni's requests. After receiving Seveni's request, he didn't say anything else and agreed to help her arrange for these refugees. Adding in the refugees that came to Seveni's territory during this time, there were over 2,000 refugees that came to Seveni's territory from other places. Even if it was the New Flyer, it would be hard to take in all these people. Sue had to work with several other companies on the Black Rice Wasteland to take in all these refugees. But most of these refugees had worked in the magic machine factories of the nobles before, so they had a certain level of skill. It was quite easy for them to integrate into these companies. The problem Seveni had to consider now was how to give these refugees a suitable identity. Although many refugees had their entire families in exile, there were still some refugees who had family and friends back home. They might return to the Lampari kingdom in the future, so if they were all sent out now, they would lose their legal status in the Lampari kingdom when they came back. This problem wasn't too hard for Seveni. With her status, it wasn't a problem for her to ask for some legal status from the kingdom's parliament. The only problem was that there were too many of them. When she was considering if she should divide them into several batches to solve this problem, the door that the deacon had closed was suddenly pushed open. Seveni looked up in surprise, but she found that the deacon had come back with another person. This person didn't seem to have any strength and could barely stand up with the help of the deacon. His clothes were in a mess and his hair was in a mess, looking no different from the refugees that came to Seveni's territory. But if one looked seriously, one could see that this person was different from the refugees. This person's clothes were messy and tattered, but it was clearly made of high-grade fabric. The workmanship was very fine and the style was very new, so it was impossible for a normal refugee to wear clothes like this. Moreover, he had a slender figure. Although most of his exposed skin was covered by dust and blood, one could still see that his skin was very fair and tender. No matter how one looked at him, he was completely different from those refugees who were used to doing rough work and had sturdy bodies and rough skin. "Your Highness." The deacon called out to Seveni and prepared to help her sit down in a seat on the side. Seveni was curious who this person was and why the deacon was so familiar with him, bringing him here. That person seemed to have heard the deacon's voice and suddenly looked up. His eyes met Seveni's and Seveni revealed a surprised look. That person didn't know where his strength came from, but he broke free of the deacon's support and charged in front of Seveni. He kneeled down and hugged Seveni's leg as he loudly cried out, "Your Highness! Save me! Save me! Our entire family was killed by those damn fellows. I was almost killed. Save me!" Seveni was surprised and quickly helped him up. She looked at his dirty face that was covered in dirt, but now it was covered in tears. She confirmed that she hadn't seen wrong. This person was indeed Manager Dima's youngest son, Jiawen. Because Manager Dima had been serving Lampuri 13th since Seveni was young and his youngest son Jiawen was around the same age as Seveni, the two of them had been playmates since they were young. Seveni and Jiawen were quite familiar with each other. Even if the two of them grew up and their relationship faded because of the difference in status, they still met often. At Manager Dima's funeral last year, Seveni had personally attended it and chatted with Jiawen for a bit, comforting him to live well. Although Jiawen was a bit depressed because his father had just passed away, he still had the image of a noble young master. But she never thought that after a year, he would become this down and out. What surprised Seveni even more was what he said. "What did you say? Your entire family was killed?" Seveni looked at Jiawen in shock. "You're talking about being killed? Who would have the guts to kill your entire family?" Jiawen shook his head in a trembling voice. I don't know. I was sleeping well, but I was suddenly woken up. Then I saw a group of people charge into my house and kill my family. I was forced into a secret passage by a servant to hide." Seeing that Jiawen wasn't clear, Seveni couldn't help knitting her brows. "You don't have a clue at all?" Jiawen shook his head in a daze. "I don't know. I don't know anything. No. There should be a clue inside. Father told me before he died that if something happened to the family, I should find you and give these things to you." Carwin fumbled in his pocket and found a small package wrapped in thick craft paper. The craft paper was covered in sweat and blood, looking very dirty, but Seveni didn't hesitate at all as she took it from Jiawen's hands. Manager Dima actually said these words to Jiawen's family before he died. There must be something strange about this. Opening the craft paper, she found that there was a sealed letter, a small booklet and a small bottle. The bottle was half filled with an unknown purple liquid. Seveni looked at the small bottle and couldn't see anything, so she put it to the side. After thinking about it, she opened the seal of the letter. When she opened the letter, Seveni's eyes suddenly narrowed. Chapter 567. Your Highness, when you see this letter, I think I will already be suffering eternal torture in the depths of hell. You don't need to be curious about why this is, because when I decided to help Duke Stag kill His Majesty, this was my destiny. I don't plan on asking for your forgiveness, and I don't have the right to. I left this letter in hopes that the truth won't be covered up and you won't be deceived anymore. The reason why I chose to reveal the truth at this time is because at this time, my most cherished family might have already met with misfortune. I was willing to work with Duke Stag and His Highness Eric to kill His Majesty because they threatened me with the lives of my family. Now that my family is gone, this threat is already useless. I am a shameful coward. For the sake of my family, I agreed to this sinful bargain with them. Even if I knew in my heart that even if I did this, in order to cover up the truth, they would still kill my family in the end. Your Highness, you must be very angry. I understand your anger because my sins can't be forgiven. I have served His Majesty since I was young and His Majesty has always been good to me. I should have repaid His Majesty with the highest loyalty, but I betrayed him at the last moment and even personally sent a fatal poison into his mouth. When I saw His Majesty drink that bowl of deadly potion, I was already dead. Not long after His Majesty died, I chose to commit suicide. Perhaps many people saw this as proof of my loyalty, but it wasn't, it was just a way to escape. I couldn't take the strong guilt in my heart, I couldn't take being watched by His Majesty every night when I slept, so I chose to escape and finally chose to commit suicide. Your Highness, if you see this letter, it means that my premonition is true and my family has already been cleansed. But it also means that I am lucky. I should have a family that survived and sent this letter to you. I don't hope for your forgiveness, but for the sake of the gods, I ask you to forgive my only remaining family. He is my family's only hope. I ask you to be merciful and forgive him. My family doesn't know anything about what I've done, and they should have paid a sufficient price. As for me, let me suffer eternal torment in the deepest part of hell, because my sins will never be cleansed. After reading the final sentence, Seveni's hand holding the letter couldn't help trembling. Anger, surprise, uneasiness, grievance, panic. All kinds of emotions that normally would rarely appear in Seveni suddenly attacked her. Her mind went blank and she lost the ability to think. So Father didn't die of illness. Father was actually poisoned and killed by Dima's butler. The one who killed Royal Father was Duke Stag and Eric was involved. The blood in Seveni's face faded and her white skin turned pale, looking very shocking. After a while, the white suddenly turned red and Seveni's body suddenly trembled. Her lips opened and a trace of blood came from the corner of her mouth. Seeing Seveni's reaction, the deacon and Jarvan on the side were shocked. Your Highness, what's wrong? Are you all right? Seeing that the deacon was about to come over to support her, Seveni quickly put away the letter in her hand and raised her hand to stop him from approaching. After taking a deep breath, Seveni's face slowly recovered from its stupefied state and her eyes became as calm as usual. But if one looked closely, they would find that her expression and eyes didn't have the normal warmth, rather there was a bone-chilling chill. Seveni looked at Jiawan before looking at the letter in her hand. After taking a deep breath, she folded the letter and put it away. She took out a handkerchief to wipe the blood from the corner of her mouth before opening the small book. This booklet was actually a diary of Dima's manager. This diary started 3 months before Lampuri 13th died and ended on the last day of manager Dima's death. Based on this diary, it could be seen that Lampuri 13th had been seriously ill for several months and his body condition had quickly declined. In the beginning of the diary, Manager Dima's tone was filled with worry and sadness. Around half a month before Lampuri 13th died, the tone of the diary became panicked, and it began to record the contact between Duke Stagg and Manager Dima. A few days before Lampuri 13th died, the diary began to record the changes in Lampuri 13th's body each day and Manager Dima's hesitation. After several days, when Lampuri 13th passed away, Manager Dima left a long diary that clearly recorded the circumstances of Lampuri 13th's death. He described how Duke Stagg had forced him and how he had poisoned Lampuri 13th. In this diary, there was also mention of the small bottle left in the package. According to the description, the small bottle contained the poison that killed Lampuri 13th. After this, Manager Dima's diary clearly showed his will to die. The diary only recorded how he arranged for his family and his funeral. In the diary, Manager Dima said that he was clear that even if he didn't commit suicide, His Highness Eric and Duke Stagg would kill him to silence him. When he chose to commit suicide, other than wanting to escape from the endless guilt, it was also for the sake of his family. However, at the end of the diary, he also stated that Duke Stagg and His Highness Eric would take care of his family for insurance, making it easier to hide the truth of the matter. Seveni roughly flipped through the notebook, but because she had seen the letter before, she wasn't that shocked. But when she saw the part where Lampuri 13th was poisoned to death, Seveni couldn't help trembling. After reading it all, Seveni thought for a while in a daze before carefully putting away the diary and the small bottle. Her eyes fell onto Carwin. "Your Highness," seeing the complicated look in Seveni's eyes, Carwin couldn't help trembling as he felt a bit of worry. His father's letter must have recorded a shocking secret, otherwise Her Highness Seveni wouldn't have spat out blood. It was a good thing that Seveni looked at Carwin with a complicated gaze for a while, but she didn't say anything else. She turned to the deacon and said, "Take Carwin away to rest. Also, seal off the news of Carwin coming here. Don't let anyone know. Do you understand what I mean?" The deacon gave a deep nod. "Yes. Go." When the deacon and Carwin left and there was only one person left in the room, Seveni suddenly trembled and quickly covered her mouth with a handkerchief. When she let go, the handkerchief was already covered in a dazzling blood-red color. Seeing this shocking mass of blood, Seveni finally revealed a look of endless sadness. She muttered in a low voice, "Eric, are you this cruel?" ###. A pure black magic sedan was quickly driving on the road leading to the Kingdom of Roer's capital, Caracas City. This road had been built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce 3 years ago and had been expanded last year. Now it was a large road that was 20 meters wide, which was the largest road in the Kingdom of Roer. This road went to the border between the Lampari Kingdom and the Kingdom of Roer to the north and went to the Kingdom of Roer's largest port city, Nissi City, to the south. It passed through Caracas City on the way and connected the Kingdom of Roer to the north and south. Based on the horse carriages and the magic cars that passed through this road, it could be seen that this road was definitely the busiest road in the Kingdom of Roer. Facts were indeed like this. The Kingdom of Roer had officially made this Rulan Road the most important road in the Kingdom of Roer. There were relay stations set up along the way, and not only did they provide accommodation for travelers, they even had a small group of soldiers stationed at each relay station who were responsible for guarding the entire road. Of course, there were advantages and disadvantages to this. The advantage was that this road connected the north and south of the Kingdom of Roer. With this road, the Kingdom of Roer had developed quite a bit. The disadvantage was that the Kingdom of Roer was a bit too reliant on this road. All the development was concentrated in the areas connected by this road, so the development of the other parts of the kingdom wasn't as good. But this situation would greatly improve in the next few years. The Kingdom of Roer had already signed a new agreement with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. In the next 5 years, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would build 3 more large roads across the Kingdom of Roer. Not only would they connect the north and south, they would also connect the east and west. Other than this, they also needed to build several secondary roads that would connect the four main roads. The final goal was to spread the roads across the Kingdom of Ruhr, trying to catch up to the current road level of the Lampari Kingdom in 5 years. The Kingdom of Ruhr might have forgotten an important problem. Kennard, sitting in the back of the magic sedan, looked at the horse carriages on the Rulin road before shaking his head at Sui beside him. It's no use just having roads, the most important thing is to have suitable means of transportation. Other than building large amounts of roads, the Kingdom of Ruhr might need to buy some magic cars from our company. Sui revealed a faint smile. Kennard, do you want to make a bet? Chapter 568. Kennard was surprised. What bet? Bet that the Kingdom of Ruhr will place an order for magic cars from our company. Sui pointed at a medium transport magic car that they had just passed on the road. I'm only talking about this kind of transport magic car, it doesn't include the magic sedan that we're sitting in. Kennard knit his brows. After thinking about it, he shook his head with a smile. No, I won't bet with you. I've thought it through, the Kingdom of Ruhr won't keep ordering magic cars from us, rather they will propose to build a magic car factory with us. Sui laughed and gave a nod of praise to Kennard. Look, you can think of this, so of course the Kingdom of Ruhr can think of this. Compared to buying magic cars from our company, it's clear that it's more beneficial for them to build a magic car factory with us and learn how to make magic cars from us. Then, Sir Chairman, are you planning on agreeing? Kennard asked this before revealing a smile. No, I shouldn't have asked this question. Sir President, you will definitely agree, because that's what you've always done. No, you're wrong. I won't agree this time. Sui slowly shook his head. Kennard was surprised again. Why? Sir Chairman, didn't you always want more people to participate in developing magic machines and have more people join the magic machine industry? Could it be that you've changed your mind? My thoughts haven't changed, but the magic cars are very different from the magic machines of our company. Sui said. What's the difference? Kennard asked in a confused voice. The difference is in the technology. Sui said. The reason why I was willing to transfer the household magic machine technology so easily, other than for my dream, was because the technology content of those household magic machines is quite low. With the help of our company, the other companies can easily grasp the technology to make those household magic machines. Kennard was silent for a bit before asking, that means? You're not willing to transfer the magic car technology because you think they can't grasp it? Yes. Sui nodded. You should know that the technology of the magic car far surpasses that of the normal household magic machines. Making a magic car isn't a simple process, rather it requires several precise steps. This is an entire engineering system, it is not something that can be easily grasped. Kennard thought for a bit before slowly nodding. It's no wonder you're not willing to transfer the production magic machine technology to the other companies, perhaps it's because you think they can't grasp it at all. The production magic machines are a bit different from the magic cars. Before there was a standardized production system, the production magic machines depended on the proficiency of the workers. In this aspect, other than the dwarves of our company, there aren't many workers who can reach this level. Weren't there several companies that tried to copy the production magic machines before? But you've already seen the results. Kennard revealed a bitter smile. That's right, those companies are overestimating their capabilities. The production magic machines they made couldn't be used at all, and they even blamed our company for not being willing to reveal the technology, causing them to suffer losses. Sui gave a shrug. I hope that the Kingdom of Ruhr doesn't know what's good for them. Actually, I'm very sincere. Other than discussing the two things I made before, I also hope that I can help them establish a basic magic machine industry. As long as they're willing to follow the plan, in just a few years, they can also make their own magic cars. Kennard paused, wanting to say something, but then hesitating. He didn't have high hopes for Sui. Although the Kingdom of Ruhr was more open than the Lampari Kingdom, supporting the development of the magic machine industry quite a bit, New Flyer was a foreign company to the Kingdom of Ruhr. The Kingdom of Ruhr could only give New Flyer limited trust. Even if Sui was sincere, the Kingdom of Ruhr wouldn't do what Sui wanted. But seeing the confident look on Sui's face, Kennard was also filled with confidence. After being by Sui's side for so long, he was often infected by Sui's strong confidence. Now he was filled with confidence in everything he did and wouldn't give up easily. This change was praised by Kennard's father, Count. He said that agreeing to let him work in New Flyer was a very correct decision. Thinking of his father, a figure suddenly appeared in Kennard's mind. Looking at Sui, Kennard hesitated a bit before pretending to casually say, "Right, Sir Chairman, according to the schedule, you'll be making a trip to the Lampari Kingdom next month, right? The students from Baron Kurto Academy should be graduating this year, so I have to check on the saplings I planted and see if they've grown to the point where they can be used." Mentioning Baron Kurto Academy, Sui couldn't help revealing a smile. His investment in Baron Kurto Academy was beginning to bear fruit. Now there were many students from the magic department and other departments that wanted to work in New Flyer after graduation. Because these young people had received targeted training from New Flyer, they had a certain advantage compared to adult humans when it came to knowledge about magic machines. They represented hope for the future. Sui thought highly of them, so when this batch of students graduated, he would personally welcome them. "I think they should satisfy you." Kennard also smiled and nodded. Then he hesitated a bit before asking, "Then, Sir Chairman, after this, can you spare some time?" Sui glanced at Kennard strangely. "What? Is there something you need?" "This." Kennard's expression was a bit strange. "Sophia is getting engaged next month. She hopes that you can attend her engagement ceremony." "Sophia is getting engaged?" Sui was greatly surprised. "Isn't she less than 20 years old this year? Who's she getting engaged to?" "It's Thor, Marquis's youngest son," Kennard replied. 20 years old isn't young, it's already the age to get married. She can't wait forever, right?" Seeing Kennard's deep expression, Sui shook his head and sighed. "This is definitely not her idea. It's you who wants me to go, right? Kennard, do you really think it's a good idea for me to attend her engagement ceremony?" "Maybe it's not a good idea, but I think it's a consolation for Sophia. Maybe it can even give her a surprise," Kennard said expressionlessly. Sui glanced at him and shook his head with a bitter smile. "Kennard, sometimes I sympathize with you nobles. You can't even decide your own marriage, it's really too painful." "This is a responsibility that we have to bear," Kennard replied indifferently. "Also, Sir Chairman, if you were willing to let it go back then, Sophia wouldn't have to go through such pain. I've said it very clearly before, I only want to have Steele as my only wife, there's no room for other girls. Even if I promise Sophia, she might not be happy with me." Sui shook his head. Seeing that Kennard was about to continue, Sui raised his hand and interrupted him. "Let's not talk about this anymore. I've been driven crazy by the two elven elders. To be honest, this time I came to the Kingdom of Ruhr to avoid them." Kennard couldn't help but laugh. After the two elven elders left last time, they came back to the Principality of Constantine after more than a month. They found Sui, but each brought a few elven beauties, and asked Sui to choose one of them as his partner. Although Sui clearly refused, the two elven elders didn't care about his opinion at all. They left the elven beauties behind, and left after saying that they would wait for Sui's decision. The elven beauties were also very active, following Sui around all day. Although they weren't obsessed with him, they could be said to never leave his side. In the New Flyer, Sui, who was always followed by 7 or 8 elven beauties, had become an extremely eye-catching sight. The two elven elders' request for Sui had also spread to everyone's ears. Almost everyone was extremely envious of Sui, and felt that he was extremely lucky to be able to casually choose elven beauties as his partners. However, not many people understood that Sue-yi was actually quite troubled by this. Although Kennard didn't understand why Sue-yi insisted on having only one wife, he was very impressed with his perseverance, and smiled without saying anything. However, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sue-yi wasn't moved by those beautiful elven beauties at all. It was no wonder that Sophia didn't make him waver at all. From the looks of it, Sophia probably had no chance at all. Kennard smiled bitterly and looked at the road ahead again. He saw a familiar huge signboard approaching from afar. This huge signboard was set up by New Flyer at the beginning of last year. It was about 10 kilometers away from Caracas City. Seeing this signboard meant that Caracas City was close by. Kennard had been to the Kingdom of Ruhr a few times due to his work, so he was very familiar with this signboard. Just as he was about to turn around and tell Sue-yi, he noticed that Sue-yi was staring at the road ahead with a surprised expression. Kennard turned around and saw a group of people standing outside the station not far from the signboard. It seemed like they were preparing to welcome someone. Kennard couldn't see clearly from afar, so he didn't understand why Sue-yi was so surprised. Sue-yi suddenly turned around and said to Kennard with a strange expression, "Isn't the Kingdom of Ruhr's sincerity a little too much?" Chapter 569. Kennard was a bit surprised at first why Sue-yi would suddenly say this, but as the magic sedan approached the group, Kennard looked over and found that Newman was standing in the group. As the main contact person between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the New Flyer, whenever Kennard came to the Kingdom of Ruhr for a deal between the New Flyer and the Kingdom of Ruhr, Newman had been in charge of receiving him. This was Sue-yi's first time coming, so naturally Newman was the one who received him. Before coming to the Kingdom of Ruhr, Kennard had contacted Newman ahead of time and Newman had said that he would come to welcome Sue-yi. But in this group of people, other than Newman, there were many high-level officials from the Kingdom of Ruhr. For example, the two people near Newman were the Kingdom of Ruhr's Agricultural and Business Department Chief Wendell Witherspoon that Newman had introduced to Kennard before, as well as the chairman of the Kingdom of Ruhr's Magic Machine Industry Development Committee, Barry Wesley. It had to be said that these two were important people in the Kingdom of Ruhr, but they were standing in the same position as Newman, standing in the middle of the group. They weren't the most inconspicuous, but they were far from being the most important. It could be seen that in this group, there were many people with higher statuses than Newman and these two. But this made it even more strange. Although New Flyer's magic machines were very popular in the Kingdom of Ruhr, New Flyer had received high praise from the Kingdom of Ruhr and even received high praise from the King of the Kingdom of Ruhr. But no matter what, this welcoming lineup was a bit too exaggerated. It was no wonder Sue-yi found it strange. After looking at this group for a while, Kennard shook his head. "Sir Chairman, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. They shouldn't be here to welcome us." Sue-yi laughed before waving his hand. "I was just joking. Although our New Flyer isn't bad, we don't have that much face to have all these important people of the Kingdom of Ruhr come to welcome us." He looked at Newman in the crowd after saying this and said with a sigh, "It seems like Newman will be busy for a while. Let's go into the city first and contact him later." It seems like we can only do this." Kennard nodded and gestured for the driver to drive straight to Caracas City, which was starting to appear on the horizon. When they passed this group of people, the magic sedan couldn't help slowing down because there were too many people. Sue-yi and Kennard saw that Newman had something important to do, so they didn't want to disturb him. But they never thought that when the magic sedan passed by this group of people, Newman would suddenly look over and see Sue-yi and Kennard in the car. Newman was surprised before revealing a look of joy. He squeezed out of the crowd and rushed in front of the magic sedan, stopping it. "Chairman Sue, Kennard, why are you here now?" The window rolled down and Newman looked at Sue and Kennard before asking in a pleasantly surprised voice, "Didn't you say that you would be here the day after tomorrow?" Sue looked at Kennard and Kennard quickly replied, "Sir Chairman wanted to come a day early to inspect the environment of your kingdom of Roor." "Oh, welcome, welcome." Newman revealed a warm smile and nodded. "Since Chairman Sue is here, you have to stay in our kingdom of Roor for a while. Let me show you the good places of our kingdom of Roor. You'll definitely be satisfied." "All right, I'm very much looking forward to it," Sue replied with a smile. Compared to before, whenever Newman saw him, he was a bit too warm and even had a trace of flattery. The reason was very simple. Because of the new flyer's investment in the Kingdom of Roor, it brought many jobs to the Kingdom of Roor and gave the Kingdom of Roor many benefits. Newman, who had introduced the new flyer to the Kingdom of Roor, had received a good evaluation in the kingdom and had been promoted several times in the past 2 years. Although he was still the chairman of the Rudsun Chamber of Commerce, he had more power in his hands compared to before. Moreover, according to rumors, he had received the recognition of the king because of this merit. He might even be promoted to the vice minister of the Kingdom of Roor's Agricultural and Business Department. This position could be considered a high official in the Kingdom of Roor. If he could be promoted, it meant that Newman could finally step into the peak of the Kingdom of Roor. Newman of course knew why he had received this rare opportunity, so he was very warm towards the new flyer. "Newman, who are they?" Newman wanted to say a few more words to Sue, but there was a dignified voice that came from behind them. The three of them looked over and found that this person was the Kingdom of Roor's Agricultural and Business Department's Director Wendell Witherspoon, who had been standing with Newman. He could be casual with Newman, but in front of Chief Witherspoon, Sue couldn't impolitely talk to him in the car. After getting out of the car, he revealed a smile to Chief Witherspoon and gave him a slight bow. Newman had already introduced Sue to Director Witherspoon. Director Witherspoon looked at Sue in surprise before slowly nodding and saying with a look of praise, "I've heard Newman say before that the new Flyers chairman Sue is very young and promising, but I never thought that he would be this young. It really is shocking." Sue revealed a faint smile. "Many thanks for Sir Director's praise. Our new Flyers magic machine industry is a young industry, so it's normal for me as the chairman to be young." Director Witherspoon laughed. "Chairman Sue is really humorous. Are you saying that old men like us shouldn't interfere with the magic machine industry of young people like you?" "Of course I didn't mean that." Sue shook his head with a smile. "The development of the magic machine industry in the Kingdom of Roor is inseparable from Sir Director's support. Chairman Sue, you don't have to be humble." Director Witherspoon sighed. "In fact, ever since your new flyer came to the Kingdom of Roor to invest, it has led to the economic development of our kingdom and played an important role in alleviating the financial pressure of the kingdom. Last time when His Majesty summoned me, he specifically talked to me about your new flyer. I didn't think that our little new flyer would be able to receive the attention of His Majesty. This is truly an honor." Sue smiled. "May I know what His Majesty and Director are talking about?" Director Witherspoon looked at Newman before replying. "It's mainly related to the technology of importing some magic machines from your new flyer. His Majesty is very interested in how Banta City has developed into a prosperous city in just a few short years with the help of your new flyer, so he wants to create an economic center city in our Kingdom of Roor. But this requires a certain magic machine industry foundation, which means it needs a certain amount of technology. So, Chairman Sue, in this aspect, I hope that your new flyer can properly cooperate with us." Sue and Kennard looked at each other before revealing understanding smiles and saying with a nod, "Sir Director, you don't need to worry. I came to the Kingdom of Roor this time to discuss the matter of building a magic machine industry foundation in the Kingdom of Roor with Mr. Newman. As for the technology, I believe that we can reach a result that both sides are satisfied with." "Is that so?" That's good. Director Witherspoon nodded with a faint smile before saying to Newman, "Since Chairman Sue is here, then Newman, you don't need to stay here. You'll be responsible for receiving Chairman Sue. Remember, you have to satisfy Chairman Sue. Understood?" "Yes, Sir Director, I will definitely do my best to arrange it." After talking to Newman, Director Witherspoon turned to Sue and said with a serious look, "Chairman Sue, if there's time later, I want to have a long talk with you. I wonder if you can give me some face?" "I can't ask for more," Sue said with a smile. "All right, Chairman Sue, CEO Kennard, I hope that you'll have a good time in our kingdom of Ruhr." Director Witherspoon gave a nod before returning to the group. The others in the crowd didn't react when they saw Newman's actions, but seeing that Director Witherspoon had gone to talk to Sue and Kennard for a while, they couldn't help being curious about their identities, so they all looked over. Newman didn't care that much. After calling the two of them, he prepared to head back to Caracas City with the two of them. When the three of them were about to leave, there was a thunderous sound of horse hooves that came from the road behind them, causing the entire road to tremble. Since the magic car was developed, Sue hadn't heard the sound of horse hooves in a long time, so he couldn't help turning back in curiosity. When he turned, he saw that on the road in the distance, there were several dozen horses pulling several horse carriages that were wildly charging over. Normally speaking, it was hard for horse carriages to surpass 30 kilometers an hour, but the horses pulling the carriages weren't normal and the quality of the horse carriages wasn't bad. Now that they were running at full speed, although they couldn't compare to the magic cars, they were still quite fast. Moreover, when the horse carriages were running at full speed, the momentum was very shocking. This was something that the magic cars couldn't compare to. Seeing the horse carriages wildly charging over, the pedestrians and other vehicles on the road all moved aside, afraid that they wouldn't be able to avoid them. When the first horse carriage was about to enter the station, a little girl suddenly appeared on the side of the road, and there was a young girl following behind her. The young girl shouted as she desperately tried to pull the little girl back, but she was too far away. The horse carriage didn't slow down at all, and the front hooves of the first horse were about to step on the little girl's head. Sue gave a cold snort and released his magic, creating a wall of wind over the little girl's head. Chapter 570. The horse's hooves continued to fall and stomped heavily on the wind wall, but it was as if it had stepped on a hard wall and could not move forward at all. At this time, the wind wall also bounced back with a gentle but unstoppable force. The front hooves of the first horse and the horse that followed it were all bounced back, forcing the two horses to fall to the side. Then, the entire carriage crashed heavily into the wind wall that Sue had set up in front of the little girl. Boom! The horses were extremely fast. Although Sue had held back, this sudden collision was still a solid one. The entire carriage and the two horses that were pulling it collided into a ball, and even the axle of the carriage was broken in half. Although the carriage was blocked by the wind wall and did not fall directly, such a violent collision was clearly not easy to bear. The coachman who was sitting in front of the carriage fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Sue coldly looked at the coachman without the slightest bit of pity in his heart. This guy actually dared to drive the carriage so fast in a crowded place without regard for other people's lives. He deserved to be taught a lesson like this. However, Sue was also very clear that the reason why the coachman dared to disregard other people's lives was because of the people sitting in the carriage. His gaze fell on the carriages behind. Sue's eyes became cold. He took a few steps forward and picked up the little girl who had been scared silly. He stuffed her into the arms of a similarly shocked young woman and whispered to her, "Hurry up and go, don't hesitate." The young woman was stunned for a moment and looked gratefully at Sue. She whispered her thanks and hurriedly carried the little girl into the fields beside the road, disappearing after a moment. Sue turned around and looked at the group that was in a mess because the first carriage was suddenly stopped. He sneered in his heart. These people dared to be so arrogant, clearly they had something to rely on. And from this posture, it was very likely that the people in this group were the people that the Kingdom of Ruhr had come to welcome. And from the formation of the Kingdom of Ruhr that was responsible for welcoming them, the people in this group must have a very prominent status. To put it simply, he must have gotten himself into big trouble this time. However, Sui would never regret what he had done. In that situation, even if he had 10,000 more choices, he would still do the same. Now that he thought about it, he even wished that he had been more heavy-handed just now and gave these fellows a more severe punishment. Unruly people! How dare you block my way? Just as Sui was sizing up the damaged condition of the first carriage, a stern shout was heard. Then, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the front. Hearing this sound, Sui's gaze turned cold. He then activated the mana within his body and set up a magic barrier. When the whip hit the magic barrier, it was immediately shattered by the barrier. The person who had whipped Sui from the second horse carriage spat out a mouthful of blood from the recoil of the magic barrier and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Magician? Everyone around was taken aback. Although magicians were not particularly rare in the signs, they were still a powerful existence in the hearts of most people. When they realized that Sui was actually a magician, and that his magic power was not bad, the people in the group who had originally wanted to charge forward stopped and looked at Sui with slight hesitation. However, these people did not have the slightest intention of retreating. Instead, they flipped their hands and took out several bows and arrows, aiming at Sui. From the looks of it, as long as Sui made the slightest move, they would not hesitate to shoot the arrows. Seeing that both sides were ready to fight, Newman suddenly rushed from behind and stood in front of Sui. He anxiously shouted at the people in the group, "It's a misunderstanding! This is a misunderstanding!" After saying that, he turned around and gave Sui a look. Sui understood. After all, this was the Kingdom of Ruhr's territory, so he had to give Newman some face. He nodded and prepared to leave. However, just because he wanted to keep the peace didn't mean the other side wanted to. When he turned around, there was a cold laugh that came from behind him. "Humph, blocking Sir Hakkonen's path and injuring our people, you want to leave like this?" Sui slightly knit his brows. When he was hesitating if he should ignore the other side and leave, he suddenly felt a wave of magic elemental energy behind him and his expression instantly changed. Turning around like a whirlwind, he saw a giant fireball flying at him. Sui's heart filled with rage. This was clearly a 4th level fire spell, the Bursting Flame spell. If he didn't have any defenses, he would be seriously injured if he didn't die. Moreover, with the might of this Bursting Flame spell, Newman beside him would definitely be affected. The magician on the other side didn't even care about Newman and Sui's life or death. This was simply arrogant to the extreme. Sui gave a snort and released all the magic in his body. He instantly released a 5th level water shield spell, covering himself and Newman. The giant fireball slammed into the light blue water shield and was instantly swallowed, not even creating a single spark. Sui looked in the direction the Bursting Flame spell came from and saw a magician who seemed to be around 50 years old standing on the roof of the 3rd horse carriage. He was currently looking over with a strange look, clearly feeling very surprised that his Bursting Flame spell was blocked this easily. Seeing Sui look over with a taunting smile on his face, that magician was a bit angry. His eyes focused and he raised his hand, causing sparks to quickly gather in his palm. It seemed that this magician should be focused on fire magic, and judging from the Bursting Flame spell just now, his level of fire magic was indeed not bad. But how could Sui give him a chance to slowly gather his magic? With a wave of his hand, a fireball much smaller than the Bursting Flame spell just now flew over. Seeing this fireball, the mage's face immediately showed an extremely aghast expression. He hurriedly stopped condensing his mana, and didn't even have enough time to cast a wind-controlling spell. He directly jumped down from the roof of the carriage. What a joke! This was a level 8 fire spell, Flame Bullet. With his current level, there was no way he could defend against it. However, just as the flame bullet was about to sweep past the roof of the horse carriage, it suddenly turned downwards and hit the back of the magician who was jumping off the horse carriage. Boom! That magician was directly shot down from the air by the explosion of the flame bullet and landed heavily on the ground. All the clothes on his back were instantly burned to ashes, revealing his roasted back and buttocks. Sui and that magician's exchange only lasted for a moment. The surrounding people only felt that in the blink of an eye, that magician had already turned into a dead pig lying on the ground. Everyone was immediately dumbfounded. Newman, who was beside Sui, glanced at that magician and turned his head with difficulty. He swallowed hard and asked Sui with a look of horror, "Chairman Su, you killed him?" Sui shook his head. "He shouldn't be dead. At most, he's just seriously injured." Newman turned his head to look at that magician lying motionless on the ground, and then looked back at Sui. With a long face he said, "Chairman Su, you're in big trouble. Is that so?" Sui was very calm. He had already guessed that there were important people in this motorcade, but since things had already been done, he wouldn't waste time regretting it. The surrounding people finally reacted at this time. The people in the motorcade quickly began to treat the magician and the soldier who had been injured by Sui. The group of people from the Kingdom of Ruhr also charged over. A group of people charged into the motorcade, as if they wanted to argue with the people in the motorcade. Another group of people charged at Sui with angry looks on their faces. Even Chief Witherspoon, who had been talking to Sui, had a dark look on his face, looking at Sui with unkind eyes. "Chairman Su, what are you doing?" Chief Witherspoon said in a sharp voice. "Do you know that the one sitting here is Ambassador Hakkinen from the Kanla Empire? He represents the Kanla Empire. It doesn't matter if you want to offend the Kanla Empire, but don't drag our Kingdom of Ruhr into this." Hearing Chief Witherspoon's words, the surrounding Kingdom of Ruhr officials had strange looks on their faces. After all this time, this powerful-looking young magician who suddenly appeared was actually some kind of chairman? Moreover, he didn't sound like someone from their Kingdom of Ruhr. Thinking of this, everyone calmed down. If it was a magician from the Kingdom of Ruhr who attacked Ambassador Hakkinen's motorcade, this matter would be troublesome. But since this magician wasn't someone from the Kingdom of Ruhr, they could remove the Kingdom of Ruhr from this matter. As long as they could calm Ambassador Hakkinen's anger, it shouldn't affect the relationship between the Kingdom of Ruhr and the Kanla Empire. But they were also a bit curious. Although Chief Witherspoon was very angry, he was already very polite to Sui. Just what kind of person was this Chairman Su? An ambassador from the Kanla Empire? Hearing Chief Witherspoon's words, Sui suddenly understood. No wonder the Kingdom of Ruhr sent such an exaggerated lineup to welcome this motorcade. After all this time, the person in this motorcade was actually an ambassador from the Kanla Empire to the Kingdom of Ruhr. For a small country like the Kingdom of Ruhr with close to 100 signs, the Kanla Empire as one of the two empires on the signs was undoubtedly a colossal existence. To be able to establish a good relationship with the Kanla Empire, and even establish diplomatic relations with the Kanla Empire, allowing the Kanla Empire to send an ambassador, this was naturally a very important matter for the Kingdom of Ruhr. Sui raised his hand and interrupted Chief Witherspoon's words as he said with a smile, "Sir Chief, please rest assured. This is my personal action, it has nothing to do with your Kingdom of Ruhr." Hearing this, Chief Witherspoon and the other officials of the Kingdom of Ruhr all let out a sigh of relief. But Chief Witherspoon immediately felt a trace of shame in his heart. Just now he said that he hoped Sui could have a good time in the Kingdom of Ruhr, but now he turned around and sold him out. This was a bit too much. "Chairman Su, this Seeing Chief Witherspoon's expression, Sue of course understood his meaning. He waved his hand with a smile. "Sir Chief, don't mind it. This is my own matter, it has nothing to do with you. Let me handle it, I'll take responsibility for the consequences." A trace of shame flashed across Chief Witherspoon's face. He thought for a bit but didn't say anything. He sighed and moved aside. The other officials of the Kingdom of Roer looked at Chief Witherspoon in confusion before moving aside and watching Sue walk towards the Canla Empire's motorcade. Chapter 571. A hand suddenly reached out from the side and grabbed Sue arm. Sue turned his head and saw Newman's hesitant expression. "Chairman Sue, you..." Newman hesitated a bit before suddenly making up his mind. "You should quickly leave this place. You are a magician, so if you leave with Kennard, no one here can stop you. But if you're late, you won't have a chance." Sue looked at Newman with a bit of surprise. He didn't think that Newman would actually be thinking about him at this time. Sue's heart was moved, but he shook his head with a smile. "No, I won't leave. Even if Kennard and I can leave, our new flyer has many properties in the Kingdom of Roer, so we can't leave. Moreover, if I leave now, it would be the same as giving up the entire Kingdom of Roer. Do you think I'll accept that?" Newman was stunned for a bit, but Sue pushed his hand away and continued walking towards the motorcade. The officials of the Kingdom of Roer that had rushed over were negotiating with the people of the Canla Empire's ambassador's motorcade, but when they saw the culprit Sue walk over, they all stopped. If it was according to their original intention, the officials of the Kingdom of Roer would have their subordinates capture Sue first and then apologize to Ambassador Hakanyan, hoping to appease his anger. But because Sue was a powerful magician, and they had only come out to greet Ambassador Sue, they didn't expect this kind of thing to happen. The subordinates they brought weren't strong enough, so they didn't dare use force against Sue. The people of the Canla Empire's ambassador's motorcade had already been shocked by Sue's move, so they didn't dare make any moves. So the group of people could only watch as Sue walked over. They were on guard, but no one dared to move. Seeing the strange situation in front of him, Sue couldn't help but feel a little strange. Ever since he had transmigrated to this world, he had been told by countless people how different powerful magicians were. However, in the past few years, he had been studying in the Sennheiser Academy and had come into contact with more mages than ordinary people. After graduating from the Sennheiser Academy, he went straight to work in Great Mage Camilla's Mage Tower, where he often interacted with mages. As for the new flyer, he had been interacting with mages all day long, and had a very deep relationship with the only 5 great mages in the Lampari Kingdom. This gave him the illusion that magicians were nothing special in this world, and even great magicians were nothing. However, the current situation made him deeply experience the deterrence of a powerful mage. Although he was alone, because there were no magicians nearby who could match him, he was almost invincible. But this was also because the soldiers of the Kingdom of Roer and the Canla Empire's ambassador were only equipped with traditional weapons, so they couldn't pose any threat to a magician. If it was the new flyer guards that were fully equipped with military magic machines, not to mention Sue, even if it was a great magician, they wouldn't be as fearless as Sue. When Great Magician Camilla had a sudden impulse, he had practiced with the new flyer guards. The final result was that, if they were to fight head-on, Great Magician Camilla could only passively defend against 100 new flyer guards, and it would be very hard for him to use his magic to attack. Unless Great Magician Camilla made a move first and used a powerful high-level spell, or even a forbidden spell to instantly kill these guards, as long as the military magic machines of the guards had a supply of magic, Great Magician Camilla would run out of magic and die in the end. The magic power of the military magic machines came from the magic crystals that could be seen everywhere, so the cost was very low. After several practice battles, Great Magician Camilla couldn't help saying with an emotional sigh, The era of magicians deciding the outcome of a battle is about to come to an end. Of course, this was only for the new flyer guards. On the continent, there was no one like the new flyer guards that were fully equipped with military magic machines. It was impossible to find a single one in the Kingdom of Ruhr, so Sui naturally didn't need to worry. Sui walked to the center of the crowd and looked around. Finally his eyes fell onto the luxurious-looking horse carriage in the middle of the motorcade. Ambassador Hakkinen, if you don't come out, I'll treat this matter as over. What do you think? The surrounding people were stunned. They thought that Sui had taken the initiative to apologize, but they never thought that he would dare talk to Ambassador Hakkinen in this kind of tone. Since he knew Ambassador Hakkinen's name, there was no reason for him not to know Ambassador Hakkinen's identity. But he still had this kind of attitude. Did he eat a bear's heart or a leopard's guts? A cold laugh came from inside the horse carriage. A trivial low-level magician, what qualifications do you have to talk to me? Sir Calabi, I came all the way from the Canla Empire, bringing the sincere greetings from His Majesty to your country's king, but I've suffered this kind of treatment. Don't you think you should do something? A white-haired official from the Kingdom of Ruhr who looked very dignified looked at Sui and said in a deep voice, This Excellency magician, do you know your crime? Sui gave a shrug. What crime? The Kingdom of Ruhr's Foreign Affairs Chief Count Calabi's face sunk. You rammed Sir Calabi's motorcade and even dared to injure Sir Calabi's subordinates, but you still dare say you're innocent? Sui shook his head with a smile. Before investigating my problem, I'll have to trouble Sir Calabi to investigate Ambassador Hakkinen's crime first, all right? If it wasn't for me reacting fast enough, they would have trampled an innocent little girl to death. Also, saying that I injured Ambassador Hakkinen's subordinates? There are many people here who saw it. It was clearly them who made a move first. I was just defending myself. Twisting words and forcing logic. Count Calabi said in a sharp voice, That little girl came out to seek death. How is it related to Ambassador Hakkinen? Because your actions have frightened Ambassador Hakkinen. This is a serious crime. Sui raised a brow. So in Sir Calabi's eyes, the lives of your Kingdom of Ruhr's citizens aren't important at all? It's not even as serious as frightening Ambassador Hakkinen? All right, I ask Ambassador Hakkinen to come out of the carriage. Let me see just what kind of scare Sir Ambassador Hakkinen has received. Is it even more terrifying than death? Count Calabi's expression froze before he flew into a rage. He angrily pointed at Sui. Where did you magician come from? You're actually this arrogant. Someone come, take him for me. The people on the side all looked at Count Calabi, but no one dared to make a move. Count Calabi finally reacted. The magician in front of him was very strong. He couldn't do anything to him at all. Thinking of this, Count Calabi could only suppress the anger in his heart for now. He said to Sui with a serious look, I urge you to apologize to Ambassador Hakkinen as soon as possible. Otherwise, if this matter really becomes big, even if you are an outstanding magician, you won't be able to withstand the anger of our Kingdom of Ruhr and the Canla Empire. Sui gave a shrug. He didn't care about Count Calabi's words at all, as he turned and walked in front of Ambassador Hakkinen's carriage. The guards of Ambassador Hakkinen's motorcade nervously looked at Sui as they surrounded the carriage. Sui smiled at them before saying into the horse carriage, Ambassador Hakkinen, if you keep hiding in the horse carriage and don't have any sincerity in solving this matter, I will be very disappointed in you. There was a snort that came from the carriage. Disappointed? What qualification do you have to be disappointed in me? It's very simple, it's just based on this. Sui suddenly raised his hand and several light blue glowing wind blades came out of his hand. The people surrounding the carriage were shocked. They wanted to block these wind blades, but they found that they couldn't do anything at all. Moreover, these wind blades were very fast. When they could react, these wind blades had already brushed past their bodies. Chi, 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 chi. More than 10 wind blades hit the carriage, and a series of light sounds like the cutting of sharp blades rang out. Then, the carriage made a series of cracking sounds, and the roof of the carriage was directly cut open by the wind blades. The remaining 4 walls also fell down in an orderly manner. All that was left of the carriage was a bare floor and a fat, middle-aged man sitting in the middle of the carriage. The middle-aged man looked at Sue-E in a daze for a while before suddenly jumping up with an agility that didn't match his figure. He pointed at Sue-E and angrily cursed, "You actually dare make a move against me? Do you know who I am? Let me tell you, you're dead. I will definitely send you to the gallows. No, I will definitely send you to prison and let you suffer." Sue-E couldn't help feeling a bit surprised. He thought that since this Ambassador Hakkinen was sent from the Kanla Empire, it would be reasonable for him to act high and mighty in a small country. But now he actually had this kind of angry appearance. It was no different from a little hoodlum on the street. This really was a bit unexpected. Looking at the officials of the Kingdom of Ruhr on the side, he found that although they couldn't help knitting their brows, not a single one of them had a surprised expression. It could be seen that Ambassador Hakkinen had always been like this. Hey, the ambassador doesn't just represent the image of a country, it also represents the importance a country places on the country that sent the ambassador. Looking at Ambassador Hakkinen's level, I'm afraid the Kanla Empire doesn't care about the Kingdom of Ruhr at all. Sui looked at the officials of the Kingdom of Ruhr, who didn't dare say a single word to Ambassador Hakkinen, and he couldn't help shaking his head. The Kingdom of Ruhr showing a fawning attitude towards the Kanla Empire was understandable, but the results of this fawning might not be as good as they imagined. Chapter 572. Sue-E was strolling through the Kingdom of Ruhr's royal palace like he was on a tour. While walking, he was looking around, looking very relaxed. At the relay station outside the city, Ambassador Hakkinen wasn't willing to settle this matter, and they couldn't do anything to Sue-E. Sue-E wasn't willing to let go either, so the situation was in a deadlock. The stalemate was only broken when Karaka's city guards and the palace guards arrived. However, contrary to everyone's expectations, even more contrary to Ambassador Hakkinen's expectations, although this matter was very important and even alarmed the Kingdom of Ruhr's current King Tarek, His Majesty's reaction was different from everyone's expectations. Everyone knew that Sue-E, a trivial low-grade magician, actually dared to attack Ambassador Hakkinen's motorcade. Then, on account of the Kanla Empire, King Tarek would definitely side with Ambassador Hakkinen. At least he would lock up this arrogant magician. If nothing unexpected happened, His Majesty would even hand this magician over to Ambassador Hakkinen to appease his anger. For a small country like the Kingdom of Ruhr, it was normal for them to bow down in front of the Kanla Empire. The reason why Ambassador Hakkinen was so arrogant in the Kingdom of Ruhr was because of the Kingdom of Ruhr's attitude. However, in the king's decree that the royal palace guards brought, there wasn't any intention of dealing with Sue-E. It was just for Ambassador Hakkinen and Sue-E to enter the royal palace together. This result was outside of everyone's expectations, because the way the king dealt with it, he was treating Sue-E and Ambassador Hakkinen on the same level. It had to be known, Ambassador Hakkinen was the ambassador sent by the Kanla Empire to the Kingdom of Ruhr. For the small Kingdom of Ruhr, he was the most honored guest. Why was Sue-E on the same level as him? This question not only filled the hearts of the Kingdom of Ruhr's officials with doubt, it also confused Ambassador Hakkinen while also filling his heart with anger. This King Tarek, could it be that he wanted to protect this little magician? Could it be that he wasn't worried about Ambassador Hakkinen's anger? Kennard looked at Ambassador Hakkinen not far away and saw that his eyes were filled with hatred. He couldn't help slightly knitting his brows as he said to Sue-E beside him in a soft voice, "Sir Chairman, why are you doing this? What? Is it strange?" Sue-E asked back with a smile. "It is very strange." Kennard nodded. You aren't an impulsive person. You could have just left after saving the mother and daughter, so why did you choose to clash with Ambassador Hakkinen? I don't believe that you can't guess his identity. Sue revealed a faint smile. Your guess is right, I did it on purpose. Kennard deeply knit his brows. This isn't necessary, right? I don't see what benefits there are in clashing with this Sir Ambassador from the Canla Empire. Of course there are no benefits in doing this. Sue shook his head with a smile. But it can allow us to see the attitudes of some people. Attitudes? Kennard looked at the officials of the Kingdom of Roer and gave a bitter laugh. Sir Chairman, I feel that there is no need to see their attitudes. In front of a giant like the Canla Empire, whether it is the Kingdom of Roer or our Lampari Kingdom, we don't have a choice. No, you don't need to care about these fellows' attitude. What I really care about is the one inside. Sue pointed into the depths of the palace. Based on the current situation, the results should be quite good. Kennard looked into the depths of the palace in surprise before turning back to look at Sue with eyes filled with admiration. He thought that Sue was being impulsive, but he never thought that he had already considered such a long-term matter. This kind of eyesight, Kennard admitted that he couldn't compare to Sue. Although the Kingdom of Roer's palace was much bigger than the Lampari Kingdom's palace, after walking for a while under the guidance of the palace guards, they still stopped in front of a large hall. Sir Ambassador, Chairman Sue, please come in. His Majesty is already waiting for the two of you inside. The one who came out to greet them was a palace official. He invited Ambassador Hakkinen and Sue in, but he kept the other officials of the Kingdom of Roer outside. Sue waved his hand at Kennard before walking into the hall with Ambassador Hakkinen. This hall was very large, being at least 50 meters from the entrance to the innermost part. After entering, they saw a path paved with a red carpet that extended all the way to the farthest end before stopping on a platform that was slightly higher than the surrounding ground. There was a large chair on the platform, and there was a young man who looked to be around 30 years old sitting in it. The young man had a crown on his head, so he should be the current king of the Kingdom of Roer, Lopatni Tarak. This was Suyi's first time seeing King Tarak. From the information that Kennard had gathered on King Tarak, he knew that although King Tarak wasn't even 40 years old, he was a very powerful king. Seeing him now, Sue only took a single look before agreeing with the judgment of the information. Based on his face and expression, he should be the kind of person who liked to control everything and wasn't willing to be manipulated by others. Sue couldn't help slightly knitting his brows. A king with this kind of personality wasn't easy to get along with. After Sue and Ambassador Hakkinen walked into the hall, King Tarak didn't move at all. When the two of them arrived in front of the throne, he stood up and walked over with a wide smile. Ambassador Hakkinen, you are my old friend, so there's no need for this kind of ceremony. Ambassador Hakkinen's salute was very sloppy, but now that King Tarak was supporting him, he immediately stood up and said with a smile, Your Majesty, I am very honored to be able to see you again. After returning to the Empire this time, His Majesty personally asked me about your situation. I praised your great talents in front of His Majesty, and His Majesty appreciated you very much. He said that if there was a chance in the future, our Canla Empire would definitely cooperate with the Kingdom of Roer. That really is great. King Tarak gave two laughs before turning to look at Sue, but he didn't say anything. Sue quickly bowed to King Tarak like a normal citizen bowing to the king. New Flyers Chairman Sue greets His Majesty. New Flyers Chairman. Ambassador Hakkinen looked at Sue in surprise. Aren't you a magician? Sir Ambassador, no one said that a company's chairman can't be a magician, right? Sue asked back with a smile. This Ambassador Hakkinen only knew of Suyi's identity now. It seemed like he wasn't welcomed in the Kingdom of Roer. Otherwise, those Kingdom of Roer officials would have known about Sue, but no one told him. Ambassador Hackanen's expression froze before he gave a soft snort. "It doesn't matter if you're a magician or a company's chairman, since you dare offend me, you're dead today." After saying this, Ambassador Hackanen slightly raised his voice as he said to King Tarek, "Your Majesty, this new flyer's chairman actually used magic to stop my motorcade and even injured 2 of my subordinates. How do you think we should deal with this?" King Tarek's eyes lit up, but he still had a smile on his face. He nodded to Ambassador Hackanen before saying to Sue with a smile, "Chairman Sue, hello. I'm very happy to see you." Seeing King Tarek show such a pleasant expression to Sue, Ambassador Hackanen's heart was filled with dissatisfaction. He gave a strong snort. "Your Majesty, I hope that you can properly deal with this matter today. I just came from the Kanla Empire today and encountered this matter on the road. I can treat this as a provocation to me and the Kanla Empire that I represent. If you can't properly deal with this matter, I will report this matter to His Majesty and let him make a decision." Because King Tarek was talking to Sue, his face was naturally looking in Sue's direction and his back was facing Ambassador Hackanen. Sue could clearly see that after hearing Ambassador Hackanen's words, King Tarek had a look of anger on his face. However, when he turned back to look at Ambassador Hackanen, he had a smile on his face. "Ambassador Hackanen, as for this matter, how about we discuss it over here?" Seeing King Tarek pull Ambassador Hackanen to the side of the hall to talk in a low voice, Sue couldn't help revealing a faint smile. He had made the right bet. After a while, it was unknown what King Tarek and Ambassador Hackanen were talking about, but his angry face was now filled with a smile. When he came over with King Tarek, he had a proud look on his face, not looking like he had been wronged at all. After coming to Sue's side, Ambassador Hackanen glared at Sue. "Since His Majesty is pleading for you, I'll let you off this year. But Sue, remember, it's best if you don't appear in front of me in the future, otherwise I will definitely make you pay the price for what you've done today." After leaving behind some words that weren't much different from what a street gangster would say after a fight, Ambassador Hackanen gave King Tarek a bow before leaving. Watching him leave, Sue looked at King Tarek in surprise. "Your Majesty, what kind of magic did you use? It actually made this fellow let me off so easily?" "I'm not a magician, how could I use magic?" King Tarek's face that didn't look like he was close to 40 years old revealed a smile filled with ridicule. "But I think that no matter who it is, as long as they receive 200,000 gold coins as compensation, they will let go of the hatred in their hearts. Don't you think so, Chairman Sue?" Chapter 573. 200,000 gold coins? Sue looked at King Tarek in surprise. He couldn't help shaking his head as he said with a sigh, "Your Majesty, you really are a big spender. Of course, this Ambassador Hackanen's appetite is really big." "He always had a big appetite," King Tarek said with a smile. King Tarek smiled, "But this 200,000 gold coins is completely for you." "For me?" Sue was even more surprised. "Your Majesty, I don't have that much face. It's worth you spending 200,000 gold coins to solve this matter. 200,000 gold coins might be a lot for others, but is it a lot for you?" King Tarek looked at Sue with a gaze of deep meaning. "Chairman Sue, if my estimates aren't wrong, your new flyer's profits last year should be at least 5 million gold coins, right?" Sue revealed a faint smile, not denying it at all. "I admit that our new flyer's profits aren't bad, but we also spent a lot. Moreover, Your Majesty, how is this related to you being willing to spend 200,000 gold coins?" King Tarek shook his head. "Chairman Sue, I think we shouldn't waste time talking nonsense here. Since you want me to show my sincerity, then I've already shown it. Although 200,000 gold coins might not be much for you, for me and even for our kingdom of Ruhr, this is not a number that can be casually thrown out. I've already shown enough sincerity, Then what about you, Chairman Su? Su-yi was a bit surprised in his heart. Although from the information Kennard had gathered on this King Tarek and his observations on the Kingdom of Ruhr, Su-yi could infer that this King Tarek was a very ambitious and far-sighted king, so he deliberately used this chance to test King Tarek and the Kingdom of Ruhr's attitude towards the new flyer. However, Su-yi didn't expect King Tarek to express his attitude to Su-yi in such a straightforward manner. It was like King Tarek had said, in this matter, he had paid 200,000 gold coins to calm Ambassador Hakkonen's anger. This was indeed a very high level of sincerity to Su-yi. Su-yi thought for a while and stopped smiling. He nodded at King Tarek and said seriously, "Your Majesty, I have to say that I am very surprised by your attitude. Actually, I came here with a very nervous heart because I'm not sure what you're thinking. Do you understand now?" King Tarek smiled. "Yes. I am a merchant, so from these 200,000 gold coins, I can clearly feel your Majesty's sincerity. Obviously, I must respond to your sincerity." Su-yi paused and asked, "Your Majesty, please tell me your thoughts, or just tell me your request. What if I ask you for the military magic machine technology?" King Tarek asked with a smile. "That's impossible." Su-yi firmly shook his head. "We can't transfer this technology right now, there is no room for discussion." "Is that so?" King Tarek gave a soft snort. "Chairman Su, don't forget, you are in my royal palace right now. As long as I give the order, I can easily capture you. Do you think that using your life to exchange for the military magic machine technology is possible?" "Impossible." Su-yi didn't look like he was threatened by these words at all, rather he said with a relaxed smile, "Your Majesty, you wouldn't do this because what you really want is not as simple as the military magic machine technology. Do you think you understand me very well?" King Tarek slightly narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Chairman Su, don't look down on your own value. In my opinion, the value of a single person like you is even greater than our kingdom's 2 armies. "I really have to thank your Majesty for this," Su-yi said with a smile, "but because of this you won't threaten me with my life, right?" King Tarek gave a snort. "You are right. You are far more useful alive than dead. At the very least, I don't want you to die before I squeeze all the value out of you." Su-yi laughed and spread out his hands. "All right then, I am here now. Your Majesty, how do you want to squeeze all the value out of me?" King Tarek looked at Su-yi and put on a smile again. He slightly shook his head and said, "As expected, I can't treat you as an ordinary merchant. All right, let's not talk nonsense and get down to business. Chairman Su, regarding the 2 cooperation projects proposed by New Flyer, I would like to represent the Kingdom of Ruhr to agree to them, but the specific details need to be discussed again." "Thank you for your agreement. But Your Majesty, what are the details that you want to discuss?" "The specific details will be up to your company to discuss with the relevant departments of the kingdom. I will only give you a general idea." Su-yi nodded. "Please enlighten me, Your Majesty." "First, it is regarding the rental of Nissi City's port. Your new flyer wants to rent it for a long term, that is not a problem. But you want to rent the port to only park your new flyer's ship. This is something that I do not agree to." "Oh? Why is that?" Su-yi asked. "Because that is our Kingdom of Ruhr's territory." "Do you understand what I mean?" King Tarek said in a deep voice. Su-yi thought for a bit and nodded. "I understand. Your Majesty, you think that if we follow the request of our company, we will lose our sovereignty over the port, right?" "It's good that you understand. Then, Your Majesty, what do you think?" Su-yi asked again. "If we use it as a normal port, then I don't think our company needs to ask you to rent it. What do you think? Of course, we will still give your new flyer some special privileges." King Tarek said, "I will specially approve a few ports in Nissi City to allow your new flyer's ships to dock there first. But when your new flyer's ships are not there, other ships can dock there. Then your new flyer will only need to pay a certain amount of management fees every year. What do you think? Sue frowned slightly. What if our new flyer's ships arrive at the port and find that there are already other ships docked there? That is simple. We just need to inform them in advance. King Tarek waved his hand. These are all details. You can discuss with the Nissi city's mayor. I will only make my own request. You can discuss the rest. Sue thought for a bit. Although he felt that this plan was not perfect, he could accept it and nodded. Then that is it. Our company will comply with Your Majesty's wishes and negotiate with the Nissi city's mayor. Then Your Majesty, what instructions do you have for the second cooperation project? The second cooperation project. I don't have any opinions on this project itself. But Chairman Sue, I have a different opinion on the way your new flyer has chosen. Your Majesty, are you dissatisfied with the current cooperation method? It's not that I am dissatisfied. Your Frestek Chamber of Commerce has already invested in 17 magic machine factories in our Rudsun Kingdom, as well as recruiting a total of 6,423 local workers in our Rudsun Kingdom. This has solved the work problem of our kingdom's citizens and made a large contribution to improving their living conditions, so I am very satisfied with this. Sue smiled and said, Thank you for your praise, Your Majesty. But this is only what we should do. It is not worthy of your praise. Before your Frestek Chamber of Commerce came, we didn't have these things. King Tarek shook his head. If it wasn't for the changes your new flyer brought to our kingdom, do you think you would have the opportunity to stand here and talk to me today? If I didn't have this value, I wouldn't be here today, right? Sue asked with a smile. King Tarek laughed and said, Chairman Sue, you are indeed different from ordinary merchants. Good, I don't deny your value. I appreciate the value of your new flyer. But Chairman Sue, don't you think your new flyer is too slow and too careful in our kingdom of Ruhr? Sue frowned and said, Your Majesty, you mean... King Tarek waved his hand. My meaning is very simple. Our kingdom of Ruhr is not the Lampari kingdom, and I am not your Lampari kingdom's old Lampuri 13th, or this useless Eric. You don't need to have the same scruples towards our kingdom of Ruhr because of what happened in the Lampari kingdom. Sue smiled and didn't say anything. Actually, King Tarek was right. It was because the new flyer had been suppressed in the Lampari kingdom that Sue became more careful when he sent the new flyer into the kingdom of Ruhr. He wasn't like when he was in the Lampari kingdom 2 years ago, investing in factories all over the place because he was worried that something would happen in the kingdom of Ruhr. Seeing the expression on Sue's face, King Tarek slowed down his voice and said with a serious look, Chairman Sue, I am very clear on the value of you and the new flyer. I am also very clear on the influence and change that the magic machine industry you represent can bring to a country. So I am willing to take the risk of offending Ambassador Hakanen and even the Kanla Empire to protect you. I've already made my stance clear. What else do you need to worry about? Sue was silent for a bit before looking at King Tarek and asking in a soft voice, All right, Your Majesty, what do you want me and my company to do? It's very simple. Open up all kinds of household magic machine technology to us and help train talents in the magic machine industry in our kingdom, promoting the development of the magic machine industry in our kingdom. My goal is to make every city in the kingdom of Ruhr as prosperous as Banta City from before. Seeing the glow in King Tarek's eyes and the strong confidence on his face, Sue couldn't say anything for a while. Chapter 574. When Sue came out of the royal palace, Kennard came forward to greet him. How is it? Sir Chairman, His Majesty didn't do anything to you, right? I saw that Ambassador Hakanen leaving the royal palace a long time ago. Did he make it hard for you? Kennard carefully looked over Sue and found that he wasn't injured at all, so he calmed down a bit. but seeing Su-yi slightly knit his brows, he was still a bit worried. He then asked, "Could it be that Ambassador Hakkinen gave you an excessive request that forced you to agree?" Su-yi came back to his senses and replied while shaking his head, "No, His Majesty has already helped me solve this matter, so there's no problem now." "Then, why do you still have this expression?" Kennard asked in a confused voice. "I'm just surprised." Su-yi turned back to look at the royal palace gates. "His Majesty's attitude towards me is very good. It should be very good, even exceeding my expectations." "Is that so?" Kennard was a bit doubtful. "Although the Kingdom of Ruhr has always supported our new flyer's investment here, His Majesty's attitude is very good. Is there a need for him to do this?" "I don't know about this." Su-yi gave a shrug. "Perhaps His Majesty Tarek really likes our new flyer's potential." Su-yi turned back to look at the royal palace and his heart was filled with emotions. He really never thought that King Tarek would place such importance on him and the new flyer. In his conversation with Su-yi just now, King Tarek had clearly expressed to Su-yi that he would fully support the new flyer's investment in the Kingdom of Ruhr. He also hoped that the new flyer could cooperate with the Kingdom of Ruhr without any scruples, developing the magic machine industry in the Kingdom of Ruhr together. King Tarek even promised Su-yi that he could give the new flyer some privileges in appropriate places. This promise made Su-yi think of Lampuri 13th. When the new flyer had just risen in the Lampari Kingdom, although Lampuri 13th didn't promise Su-yi anything, in terms of actions, he had given Su-yi and the new flyer a lot of support. He had also given the new flyer some privileges in many places. But Lampuri 13th's attitude towards the Frestek Chamber of Commerce was very conservative. He only gave the Frestek Chamber of Commerce some limited privileges in Banta City, which were very limited privileges. After Lampuri 13th passed and His Highness Eric took the throne, not only did the Frestek Chamber of Commerce lose all their privileges, they were even forced out of the Lampuri Kingdom by the conservative nobles who had different stances. Now that King Tarek had promised Su-yi that he would fully support the new flyer and give the new flyer some privileges, Su-yi was happy about this, but he wasn't that excited. In the end, the Kingdom of Ruhr was someone else's country. Perhaps King Tarek would support the new flyer now, but no one could guarantee how long this support would last. Perhaps he might change his attitude because of the situation. Even King Tarek might suddenly pass away, and the new king of the Kingdom of Ruhr might have a different attitude towards the new flyer. If something like the Lampari Kingdom happened again, the new flyer wouldn't be able to make up for their losses. Of course, Su-yi and the new flyer couldn't give up on eating because of this. There were definitely some worries, but for the development of the new flyer, and also to promote the magic machine industry in the signs, Su-yi still decided to cooperate with the Kingdom of Ruhr. According to his discussion with King Tarek, not only would the new flyer invest more in the Kingdom of Ruhr, they would also gradually open up some household magic machine technology. They would open more joint magic machine factories in the Kingdom of Ruhr. At the same time, the Kingdom of Ruhr would follow Su-yi's suggestion and open several magic machine vocational training schools in the kingdom, specially preparing to train workers in the magic machine industry. Moreover, Su-yi had also agreed with King Tarek that as long as everything went smoothly, the new flyer would gradually transfer the magic machine technology to the Kingdom of Ruhr, allowing the Kingdom of Ruhr to finally be able to make their own magic machines. This was Su-yi's promise to build the foundation of the magic machine industry for the Kingdom of Ruhr. The magic machines were the most important foundation of the magic machine industry. As long as they grasped this, the Kingdom of Ruhr could develop their own magic machines and wouldn't need to rely on the new flyer. But this goal was a bit long-term, so both sides had reached an agreement for now and would seriously consider it in the future. Actually, Su-yi didn't have much hope in this long-term cooperation. From the experience of the Lampari Kingdom, because of the backwards political system in the signs, It was hard for many countries to make consistent decisions. Although King Tarek was very supportive of the new flyer, no one could guarantee how long this would last. For Sui, the most important core of the new flyer was his personal territory in the Principality of Constantine. "Where's Newman?" Sui looked around and didn't see Newman, who had been waiting outside the palace with Kennard, so he couldn't help feeling a bit strange. A strange look appeared on Kennard's face. Newman said that he would find some connections to ease the tense relationship between you and Ambassador Hakkinen. "Oh? Is that so? It seems like Newman really does place importance on us." Sui revealed a smile. He looked at the two subordinates Newman had brought with him before saying to Kennard, "Since Newman isn't here, we're not in a rush to discuss matters with the Kingdom of Ruhr. Let's go take a look at the store first." "All right." Kennard nodded before getting into the magic sedan with Sui. Newman's two subordinates should have received Newman's orders, so they didn't stop the two of them. They just got into a magic sedan and followed the two of them. Sui turned back and couldn't help saying with a smile, "Newman's magic sedan should be quite rare in the Kingdom of Ruhr, right?" "Actually, it's not that rare." Kennard shook his head. "According to the company's statistics, our company has sold a total of 746 magic sedans to the Kingdom of Ruhr. Other than the 425 magic sedans that have been bought by the nobles and merchants of the Kingdom of Ruhr, the other 321 magic sedans are currently in Karaka City. I think that we should be able to see another magic sedan soon. There are over 300 in this city. That isn't a small number." Sui nodded. "But this number is still lacking compared to the total number of magic sedans in Banta City, so the density is even worse. There's no other way since our company has only started selling magic sedans to the Kingdom of Ruhr in the first half of this year. Moreover, because of the tariffs, the price of the magic sedans here is much higher than when we sold them in Banta City, which also affects the sales volume." There was a pure black magic sedan that came from the other side of the street. When it passed by the magic sedan that Sui was in, the driver of the black magic sedan looked over. When he saw Sui and Kennard in the car, he was clearly surprised. Sui gave the other side a smile, and the other side gave a forced smile before speeding off. "As for the sales volume, there's no need to rush. I believe that the magic sedans will become popular in the Kingdom of Ruhr sooner or later." Sui looked over the black magic sedan that was driving away and looked at the shops and houses on both sides of the street. He found that in these houses there were many kinds of household magic machines that were being used. It was hot right now, so other than the magic fans that could be seen everywhere, there were also many magic air conditioners, magic refrigerators, and other household magic machines that were popular in summer. On both sides of the road there were quite a few people riding bicycles. The people on the road were clearly used to this. "Look, Kennard, those companies have always been worried that if they lose the Lampari Kingdom market, they won't have anything to eat. But look at this place, the people have clearly accepted the existence of magic machines. The Kingdom of Ruhr's market is even bigger than the Lampari Kingdom's market." "That's right," Kennard said with a nod with a smile. "With the hard work of our company, we've finally opened a market in the Kingdom of Ruhr. Speaking of this, those companies really know how to take advantage of us. Our company has opened a market and they've come to take advantage of it." "What? You're not satisfied with them?" "No, I'm just feeling emotional." Kennard shook his head. "Sir Chairman, I've worked with you for this long, I'm very clear on your thoughts. You definitely aren't willing to let those companies die like this, since they represent the future of the magic machine industry, right?" Sui laughed. "That's right." "Very good, Kennard. I've found that there's no problem in letting you manage the company, because you know my intentions very well." Kennard shook his head with a bitter smile. "That won't do. At least I can't do something as crazy as offending the ambassador of the Kanla Empire just to test the attitude of the Kingdom of Ruhr's king." Sui couldn't help breaking out in laughter. Although Kennard didn't say it, he definitely felt that Sui's actions were too reckless, so his words were warning Sui. Although the magic sedan couldn't drive that fast in Caracas City, it didn't take long for them to pass through most of the city and arrive at the busiest business street in Caracas City. The New Flyers store in Caracas City was also the New Flyers main store in the Kingdom of Ruhr, which was on this business street. The two got out of the car in front of the store, and as soon as they walked in, they heard a very familiar voice. "I told you to take it out, so take it out. Don't you know who I am? If you make me unhappy, do you believe that I won't have someone smash your store?" Hearing this voice, Sui and Kennard looked at each other with bitter smiles. It really was a small world. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.